to come from the bowels of hell.
The Dana Gould Hour.
Jungle worms and swamp rats run around your feet.
I bought a dog that killed the calf, that ate the canary. What is truth?
And once again, welcome back.
Hello, and welcome to this is not yet the Halloween episode, but it's halfway through production, but I still owe you the September episode, and here it is, even though it may be coming to you in the very end of September, or possibly the beginning of October. It all depends on when it gets out of the hopper, episode of the Dana Gould Hour podcast. I apologize for the latest delivery last month. I got married, and then we went on our honeymoon, where we both finally caught COVID. So again, we lost some time. We're all home now, getting back on our feet. Everybody's great, and that's that. So here we are getting caught up, and we do have a fantastic episode to make up for it. Your friend and mine, comedian Matt Braunger, is here, one of our faves, and we're going to talk about, among many things, his new special, Doug, available now digitally worldwide on Moment. Details coming up. And we also pay a visit with Frank Santopadre. Frank is a very good friend of mine. He's a fellow traveler, and you probably know him as the longtime co-host of the late, great Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast. And Frank was very kind enough to sit down and talk about it. It's a great interview. It's really funny. It's also very touching. Going over, talking about Gilbert and other things. I'm really grateful to Frank for sitting down and opening up, and I'm very grateful to you for listening. True Tales from Weirdsville has the story of MKUltra, which is the CIA's experiments with LSD in the 1950s. It could also have been known as Operation What Could Go Wrong. Hey, if you enjoy True Tales from Weirdsville, you will also enjoy my newsletter, The Cinemorph. The Cinemorph is a twice-weekly column that I publish on the new platform, Bulletin. Just imagine miniature episodes of True Tales from Weirdsville that you do have to read to yourself, but they are delivered right to your inbox. Just go to danagould.bulletin.com and hit the subscribe button. Like the podcast, it's free and worth it. As for me talking into microphones outside at night, if you live in the Kansas City area, I will be performing at the Comedy Club of Kansas City. What a nice official name. On November 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And I will be returning to the San Francisco Punchline, one of my favorite places on the planet, on November 10th, 11th, and 12th. The Joyride album, featuring myself and Bobcat Goldthwait, is now available on 800 Pound Gorilla. And the film itself is out on Blu-ray. You can get that through Amazon, I believe, and the producer of that. If you are a fan of Hanging with Dr. Z, watch this space for an important announcement coming up about the imminent Season 3. Oh, we're busy. We're busy, busy, busy. And now we're married and over COVID. Lastly, thank God. If you like the show, please consider becoming a Dana Gould Hour Sky Cadet. Go to danagould.com, sign up for our Patreon, $5 a month, get you extra audio, video, what have you. Junk. You get extra junk for $5. We don't have graduated levels. $5 a month. I'm not going to come to your house and watch a movie with you. But be a Sky Cadet, won't you? It's a simple deal for complicated times. And now, it's on to our filthy business.
Dana Gould Hour. Free and worth it.
One of my favorite guests, Matt Braunger. Go.
Hello, sir.
That was always a thing. Sometimes Well, when you go on the road and then you have to do morning radio.
Yeah.
And it's always guy's name plus animal. It's always like.
Yes. Rick and the Lizard.
Right.
FM 103.
Caleb and the Woodchuck.
Mm-hmm. And the guy was the animal was always the pig. He was always the pig, more piggy guy. And there was a woman as well.
And sometimes they're very competitive with you. I got to tell you, we sold out that place. We sold out that club 2 weeks ago.
I see you're going to the Orpheum. We had the most incredible thing. And he fails to mention that they had 3 hugely popular bands in the area.
Yeah.
Like people think
you live here. You're on the air 4 hours a day. It would be weird if you didn't sell it out.
And also, are people really going for you, Reagan the Woodchuck? Like they can hear you anytime in the morning. No one wants to see you. No one wants to see either one of you guys.
Nobody went to the Shea Stadium to hear Murray the K introduce the Beatles.
Right.
It's done. Let's leave.
It's over.
It's over. He did it.
We're done.
Yeah, you always go, and they're always so the cool guys are great, and then there's a very competitive ones. But the one that I was referring to when we started was you would come in and they're like, "Hi, I'm here at the comedy toilet," and they'd be like, "Hey, Dana Gould," and then they just turn their back on you and do shit and expect you to just talk.
always just like
what are you doing?
They're somehow in charge of loading all the commercials in place. There's not someone that's already done that.
Yeah, moving the carts.
Yeah, like it is true. They turn and the worst. We all have the worst in our minds.
Sure.
And I have 100 different ones of guys, butchering my name, which I never take offense at, or getting the credits wrong, which I don't really care, whatever, and also, of course, so casually throwing you intros to your own material, which they insist you write out a little bit. So I hear, like,
yeah, exactly.
the worst I've ever had.
Matt, you rent a lot of cars.
Now I hear, I was thinking, what if you flipped it on him? How did you hear that? No, who you been talking to? What is this?
What?
I'm leaving. There was a club it was the Playboy Club. There's a big room and a small room, but this is not the hallowed ones.
Oh no, we missed that. No.
Yes, this was at the Palms Casino Palm Casino in Las Vegas, and what would be
already? I'm already sad.
Oh God, you would headline and there'd be an opener, but before that, they did this show once a month where they had the actual Playmate of the Month would come out on stage and be like, "Hi guys, thanks for coming. I love to laugh. Please welcome." And they would go, and then after the show, they would sign copies of their Playboy while you're just there. and it was weird for everyone
and they always say the same thing. I'm a nerd.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like the woman I was with. We went to the radio stations together, and she was a lovely woman and great. And we went to one of exactly what and this is what I think of every time a comic mentions the, Dave and the iguana on whatever. So the animal guy was like looking at the pictures while she's sitting there, and he goes, "I'm sorry to do this to you, but if I have to suffer through this memory, I have to share it."
Oh, no.
He's like, "You're shaved."
Oh God.
And she's just answering him normally, like, "Yeah, it's they really ask you to, and I do it anyway." So making it normal. And I wanted to grab her and go, "You don't have to take this.
You're better than this.
You're better than this. It's like, this is, you did a thing, you're naked, and that's fine.
Yeah.
He's far worse than you.
I want to talk to your guidance counselor."
I want to talk to your manager. I want to talk to your PR person.
Oh God. Yeah. There is that. I hopefully that's going out of style you can't talk to people like that, but it was just, Stern, they all just want to be Stern. Yeah.
And Stern, it's like to his credit, it was always like he kind of finessed it more, where it's like, okay, he's playing the male sexual objective.
Sure.
That's always been kind of his thing, and somehow also making the woman feel comfortable, kind of thing, where it's like, look, you are so hot. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's like, I feel like he took that
and they have to know going,
and no one else, no one else
so,
can kind of do it that way.
You have to sort of know going in. Well, you're going on a radio station. You're going to it.
Exactly.
The weirdest experience I ever had in that regard, I did a movie with Julie Strain, who was a pinup model, B-movie actress, 6 foot, one of fun, big tall gal, and she was in Penthouse that month, not Playboy.
Got it.
A little rougher around the edges. And then she had it on set and was looking through it on set. And I was standing next to her. I was like, oh, excuse me. And they put like a quote of her saying something funny next to a very graphic photo of her. And she just pointed to the photo and said, look at that, right next to my roast beef. I almost fell over. It's like, well, that's how you do it. Yeah, you objectify it more than anybody else, you automatically win.
Oh yeah, and you don't want a person that's just. I was on a show with someone who was a playmate, and Krista Flanagan, who was on Mad TV, and I remember after, I was at a party at her house, and her and her friends were kind of giggling and laughing about something and being secretive. And she goes, can I tell you something? And I'm like, yeah. And like, she's like, I got an offer to be in Playboy, and I'm thinking about doing it. I'm like, okay, whatever makes whatever makes you happy. But I certainly wasn't like, don't. I don't know. If it's good or
just
bad.
Like a very, very competitive comic. Who made the offer?
How'd you get that?
I could be in that. Yeah, I could be in Playboy.
I could be.
They offered it to me too.
I sent my pics to Inches, and they said, no, have you not heard of our magazine and what it means? But I thought it meant height.
I'm in Colt this month.
Interesting enough, Playgirl magazine, no girls.
Oddly, Playgirl magazine didn't last because it was based on the false belief of, you know what women like to look at? Dongs.
Just not a bunch of dongs.
Not really.
Yeah, I liked
surprisingly no.
April Richardson's bit about strip clubs for straight women is just guys in meticulously tailored suits called biznaz, like a Z, surreptitiously for a flash of bulge. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just you want to.
They do, but
romance.
The one in Massachusetts that was the Golden Banana. I get it.
That's great.
But I guess they are in business. They do, Magic Mike. It's a thing.
Well, and it's also I do think women like the stereotypical strip club thing, which is just like they want a guy up there to yell at and do the magic. Magic Mike is a huge show. It's kind of like a muscular, talented dancer, do flips and grind on you and stuff, and it's like. It's a bit of it's kind of like, oh, I get to be drunk and we as a horde of women yell at this guy. That's kind of the dream, whereas when guys go to strip clubs, it's like a furtive look around and I'm just going to sit here. And,
Larry Miller. Yeah. Larry Miller has a bit about how when women go to strip club, they go in a group and they're screaming and yelling and laughing. And when guys go, they're all by themselves, eyeing the stage like a puma watching a limping gazelle.
Yeah. I mean, that's why the only times I ever go to the strip clubs is like back home in Portland, where you have as many women as men in the audience in most of those places, or like Atlanta, where it's kind of like it's part of the culture and people are throwing ungodly amounts of money and stuff.
Dallas and Tampa, where Tampa, they give directions like, how do I get to the comedy club? Go down 3 strip clubs, take a left at the liquor store, go down 4 more strip clubs. God bless the South, and God bless Florida especially. God bless Florida.
It's God's country. Truly.
Yeah. It does look like the nation's dong on a map, and it lives up to its reputation.
Yeah.
So you have a new special coming out on a tell me about this platform, and your special is called Doug.
It's called Doug, and it's named after a terrible drunk husband and father I met on vacation with my wife years and years ago. And
is this your Nanette? Is this your... This isn't comedy. This isn't really stand-up comedy, and therefore automatically better?
Yeah, if you don't laugh at something, yes, that's exactly correct. That's my out. By the way, that's what's called, if you have to write reviews and articles, that's the layup. Right. Well, it's not really stand-up comedy. That automatically means it's better. The one thing,
not really.
I hated the it's automatically better attitude from a lot of people, but I did like the idea. I like anytime someone can go, I don't really know what it is. Hope you like it. You know what I mean? Not that she meant to do that, but it's
it's like a very special episode of a sitcom. Well, it's heavy drama because it's not where it's supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. But at least
that was, by the way, every episode of Grace Under Fire. Hey, mommy, we're going to go make fun of the blind kid down the block. Baby, we need to talk about something.
Nice. Was it late 80s, early 90s reference?
Yeah, thank you.
Good. No, I mean, basically that's the last bit on the special, and it's like a story. I tend to have these long meandering stories about my life that was kind of like based in the preface that I truly believe men need bad examples almost as much as we need good ones, where it's just like, I can never be you, man. I don't have a kid yet. Cannot be you. Cannot. And it's not
you met Doug before you before you were a parent.
Well before. And it was just his disdain for him maybe having children, and that every vacation seemed to be just get blotto and forget you have a family. And I understand that, but he was also incredibly judgmental to every other person. And I think he worked in finance. So there you go.
Oh, even better.
It's very fun to just inhabit that whole story of him. And there's a big kind of a big reveal ending that's almost like a magic trick within the special for the finale that involves an audience.
Please tell me you look into the lens and go, Doug is me.
Doug is me. I'm kidding. It's my dad. Come out, Doug. No, and I wish it was that good. It's actually,
you pull off a rubber mask, but it's just you underneath a rubber mask of you.
Style. I pull a rubber mask. It's Tom Cruise. Wait, no, it's actually Doug. It's a guy you've never seen.
It's a beautiful Matt Braunger mask, and then you pull it up, and it's just you underneath. Check it out. I had a mask made of me. Isn't that weird?
And I tore off bits of my face in not waiting. That's the thing I love about those things. It's like anyone who's done that kind of makeup, it's like they have to paint it off you.
God!
You have to paint. You wear the Dr. Zayas thing.
Please tell me.
It's very familiar.
Yeah, no, it's it's an hour and a half to get out of that rig.
For some insane.
Oh yeah, you wore so much of it. Yeah,
I did. Yeah. John McCain was played by Bobby Lee for God knows how, and he looked like a race that didn't exist. Which
yeah. But you're not supposed to. Yeah, that's the problem.
He would pull it off. He would just he'd get so annoyed, and you're like, Bobby, and you'd see patches of red on his skin. You're like, dude, stop.
The only thing that's I know with the Dr. Zayas thing, the only thing that's different. By the way, fans of Dr. Z will be returning in early 2023. Pulling off the glue is different. Like in the late 60s, early 70s, they just used spirit gum and you could pull it off.
Right. Yeah.
Now it's basically surgical adhesive.
Yeah. So it moves as your facial expressions.
Yeah. Yeah. But they have to paint it off with myostate, whatever it is. I have a gallon of it in my bathroom. Or you're not pulling that off. You just rip your face off. But that's the thing they would do. Brutal. They did that on the Ben Stiller show too. They do too much makeup. Mm-hmm. Like I know on like the best example is Martin Landau and Ed Wood, where they just give you enough.
Yeah.
To kind of like, that doesn't really look like Bela Lugosi.
Yes.
He looks kind of like a thing, but he's convincing. You never see the makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Gary Oldman played Churchill, the makeup was amazing, but I kept looking for the seams in the makeup.
Of course.
Even though I couldn't see them.
Of course.
I would have rather just make Gary Oldman look a little fat.
Yeah. There's a certain point where makeup and hair is almost doing too much.
Yeah. Like 100%.
I've had a different white guy's hairstyle put on top of my hairstyle, like a wig on top of my, like what have we changed here? It's not, it's not like, I understand if you want to give, it's not even that different than mine, you know? Anyway, it's not like, thick movie star hair or something. Sure. You just gave me my hair.
Yeah,
Just-
well, they need to use the wig. They
do.
use. Yeah,
They bought it, so they need to use it. Yeah.
Yeah, they need
But-
to use the wig.
Almost be two reasons why it's on the platform it's on.
And tell us the name of the platform again.
It's called Moment House.
Moment
House.
Moment
Yeah.
House, and
It's
that's a
a-
new platform.
It's a platform where basically it's only on there for a limited time. So you basically buy tickets. So it's going to be
Right.
on pre-sale for $5, and then it's going to go on sale for a couple bucks more the actual day of sale. So there's 24-hour period. You can get the
And can
cheapo
people
one.
link to this on your social media platforms?
Exactly. Yeah, there'll be links on all.
And is
all
there
my-
like a
all my things.
momenthouse.com or is it
There is.
an app?
Yeah, no, it's I believe, I don't know if they have an app or not, but this was just one of those things I wanted
Is
to
it like
try.
Pluto?
No, it's only a thing where concerts happen and things
Okay.
like one-time kind of live events. So I decided to make, though it is pre-recorded, I'm doing like a thing pre and post if people want to kind of check in kind of thing,
Right.
like do like Q&A after the
Yeah.
thing. I'm sure people will want to ask me because there's certain parts in that like, did that happen? Wait, does
Right.
that feel? Especially with the reveal at the end. So just because it was all set to shoot before the lockdown, and then the lockdown happened,
Right.
and then I threw out more than half of that material during the lockdown, and the lockdown gave me other material, and I
Right.
drove across the country with my family, and then
There you go.
shot it a
That
year
writes
ago,
itself.
and then so this is just something I'm doing to kind of raise its profile and also, make back the money it costs to shoot the darn thing. That's
Okay,
it.
Right. No,
Yeah.
believe me. I get it.
And there are other.
And I'm a listener. I want to see it. Do I go
Yeah.
to Matt Braunger? Or do I go to Matt Braunger on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter right now to find a link? How do I get this? I'm a
Yeah,
fan. I
you
want
can
to
go to. It'll be on my Instagram. It'll be on. Let me see. I can actually pull that up right now.
And you're still Coxman53 on Instagram?
I will
Is that
always
you?
be Coxman. I get an email almost every day. Can we
Ardent-
buy it? It's now
Ardent
up to
Swain,
$700,000, and I keep saying no. I will not give up my because see, it's odd enough. It's before you could make back when your own domain. It is .Coxman, so it's Matt Braunger. Impossible. Let me see. They sent me this. Hold on one second. So let me just make sure I get the
Dot Coxman actually sounds like a Bond heroine. Come along, Dot.
Yeah, it'll be just at moment.co/Matt Braunger. That's where it'll be to buy the tickets, to watch the thing.
So to find it, you go to on your computer or phone, moment.co/Matt Braunger.
Correct. Yes.
That's moment.co.Matt Braunger. No,
Yeah.
moment.co/Matt Braunger. Just
Right.
think of slashing Matt Braunger.
Or go to find me on Twitter or Instagram. It's going to be up.
It'll be a
at
link.
that point, I'm going to blast all over the place. It's one of those things where I'm allowed to announce it because now it's when this podcast comes out, it is post September 15th. And that's
Right.
when I can't say that it's coming out until then. Because
Right.
this is all kind of
Right. Oh, this won't be up before the 15th. I promise.
I'm putting this. I'm putting my myself in the hands of people who are far better at social media than me.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
I mean, I'm
that's
kind of
certainly
taking
not me.
yeah, I'm taking a page from another comic who has kind of built up all his business online, and he did his thing on Moment House and made a
that?
mint. Andrew Schultz.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, he's a lot more of a button pusher than I am. Actually, a good guy, but one of those people who is really popular amongst people who like Joe Rogan, people who like Tim
Right.
Dillon, stuff like that. And it's kind of like I loosely know Andrew, and I'm working with the same people he's working with, and they were like,
Mhm.
"Why don't you try this?" And I was like, instead of just putting it up on YouTube.
Right.
Great. Let's try it. Let's try it and actually make a couple bucks. I won't. I think he made over $1 million. I will not. Yeah, dude. Yeah. So, I mean, I learn from everybody, not in terms of what to say on stage, but just in terms of how to get what you say on stage in front of as many people as possible.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
know.
I'm still going door to door with my notebook.
but I've watched. You've definitely improved. It's. I think we've all had to up our game to a certain
Yeah.
degree. You and I. You're a little older than me, but we both have recognize the fact that, okay, things are not going to change to the way I want them.
Things are going
but
back.
I can find a level of comfortable self-promotion is what I try to call it.
And that's what it is. It's like not feeling too. I find it's interesting. We're going to do season 3 of Hanging with Dr. Z, and then we're going to do a live show.
No, nice.
A live night. And and I think we're going to shoot that and do it. And it'll be like a live version of the show.
Fantastic.
And that's what we're going to show. I'm much more comfortable promoting that because it's ostensibly not me.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
I don't feel so self-conscious about it.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. That's been the wall that I've always ran up against, where it's just like, I just feel like it's ironic that you feel like a douchebag doing it and people see you as one doing it to a certain degree. So you could put up,
but then
you put up a clip of you chasing your daughter and you trip over something, you hit your head in the wall. Everyone's gonna be like, I love this video. Let's share it everywhere. I'm gonna tell all my friends. You share that same clip, and at the end, there's a liner that says, "Click here for tickets to my show at Bell House." People are like, "Fuck that guy!" Like it's just, it always is that. It's all like, and they don't even care about clicking it or not. They just don't like that fact. So I enjoy people trying to bend over backwards to pretend like it's not a promoted thing. Or
I just have the Zapruder footage and then clicking. Look how hard he laughed.
I mean, I could actually see Andrew Schultz do that. Like he has things like that where it's just like the click is like floating above his head, and if someone hits it and click here. Not that he would do that, but I won't say he wouldn't. Where it's kind of just like, look, this will get butts and seats.
Right. Or the minute Jackie gets on the hood of the car, like, she's going to get tickets. Why don't you?
Yeah, she's got an Andrew Schultz t-shirt on or something.
What is nice about it, I've talked about this before. I do love that you can just do it. You know, the gatekeepers are very mitigated. It's like,
yeah. And the key for me is not to blow up, go viral. I've gone viral a couple times, and there's no rhyme or reason. You don't know which thing is going to take off. I mean, I had a thing go for, at this point, it's like 4.5 million views, and it's just a bit about my friend Al Samuels, who I knew from Chicago, leaning over during the movie Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and saying something in my ear after.
Right. No, I know the bit. I know the bit.
You know the joke. And I'm like, who would have, like, you look at it on a piece of paper with all your bits written out, and you're like, there's no way that will land. I mean,
I see it when I write, you're very kind in that you read them. I write 2 articles a week for this thing called Bulletin. I have Cinemorph.
It's great.
And it's just like behind the scenes stuff that I find interesting. And then I just wrote one about this movie Crime Wave, which was written by Sam Raimi and the Coen brothers, and it was a complete flop.
Right.
That has had 7 times the readership of any other article I've ever written for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. But I mean, you're making a good part of my point, where it's just kind of steer into the thing you love.
Yeah.
That's one thing I dig about you. You've always done that. You've always been like, I like monsters. And I think that's one reason we kind of connected. Is I do, you know?
Yeah.
It's people can definitely see what it's being when you're being false.
If I make my page count today, I'm going to start painting this bad boy.
Yeah. I loved your essay about why that movie didn't work. And I'm just like, I was reading it just going, yes, exactly. Yes. It's so true.
Yeah, all talking about Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks. All the pieces are there. It's just like, no, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. You have to know how to tell a joke.
Yeah. That's really
it was so funny. We were talking about wearing too much makeup. Have you heard about the Brendan Fraser imbroglio?
The Whale. One of my favorite young up-and-coming comedians and friend is a guy named Caleb Huron. And I laughed out loud today at his tweet where he was just like, I just learned that Brendan Fraser is not only, and Caleb is a large gay man. And he's not only wearing a fat suit, he's also playing a gay man. I will take this to the Supreme Court. The perfect, like, that should be me kind of thing. Yeah.
The equivalent that a fat suit is blackface. Like,
wow.
Oh, come on.
Wow. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Don't as I say, don't pull a ligament with that stretch.
Yeah. As someone who wore a fat suit in Creepshow, I can tell you they're hot. But here's the thing.
When you jog, guys.
Here's my argument. Like, where is the 600-pound actor who's skilled enough and famous enough to star in this movie?
Right.
And who could physically survive the rigor of starring in a movie?
Well, and I that, but also I think the one thing that always gets thrown out in these arguments where it's like, so-and-so shouldn't play that person because, and the arguments of clearly you can't do blackface, brownface.
Yeah.
No. I don't believe, that non-trans actor should necessarily play trans, but like our job though is to normalize all of that as much as possible. Not that we have a normalized race, but normalize, let's say, for example, trans folks, to elevate them so that, we can have, we have Laverne Cox. Yeah. Not a movie star, but we could do it. We could make that person a movie star 100%. But
people say one of the reasons that public opinion towards gay people changed so drastically in such a short amount of time was Will and Grace.
Oh, sure.
Because it normalized gay people for people that
I thought you were going to say Paul Lynde's brutally obvious double entendres on Hollywood Squares.
Well, that was in the 70s when they weren't gay men. They were just men who wore ascots.
They were confirmed
bachelors. Paul Lynde, never married.
Yes. Never married.
Never married.
Yes.
The last two words in every obit. Never married. At a certain point, you just go like, "Hey, this is kind of like makeup."
And it's but I could but I'm trying to get to this point, and I'm stumbling over myself. But Hollywood is absolutely heartless, and people who make it to that point of being a quote unquote movie star, a thing that all but gone. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Or let's even say a TV star, and they have this. They have this, $1 million property. We're going to have this person play this thing. Not that, quote unquote, The Whale. Is it a superhero movie? I need to look it up. Is it?
It's in the MCU.
Oh, The Whale. Do they put a shining spotlight of a whale on a cloud?
Well, it's Fudgy the Whale. It's the same. It's the same.
Fudgy the Whale.
Fudgy the Whale. Yeah.
Commissioner, I don't think he's coming. He's coming. He's just slow. It's
and then he gets to the whale. We need you
behind it. They want a name to play that person, and we just need more people who are trans, who are very overweight, who are whatever to get bigger names. But can you with the case of very heavy people? It's kind of like you're changing public persona. So it's like I don't even know what you call it. Like you call it blackface. Do you call it fat body? You fat body's okay.
Exactly. It's I guess it's some kind of appropriation
of heavyweight of heavier person culture.
I don't know.
Not just stretch
carbohydrate appropriation.
What's the thing to solve my conundrum? I guess would be like everyone needs to go fully Raging Bull, which De Niro still has health trouble because
well, that's the thing.
So bad for your body to do that.
I think Tom Hanks got really messed up too in Castaway.
For losing that weight for Philadelphia, right? Yeah.
And then he did it again in Castaway.
Right.
He got big, and I think I don't know if he became diabetic or was that, or he said he had long-term health issues from.
Is that why Tommy never does shots when we all go out drinking? Is that why? I never asked him.
But he does talk to the shot nurse.
He does. It is a funny gag when he starts calling our empty shot glasses Wilson. You can't all be Wilson, Tom. Come on.
So, are you on the road? Are you out there on the road a lot? Right
I am, but it's scaled back because of the young kid. She's 2.
How old is 2? Best age ever.
Man,
all downhill from here.
I'm happy. Yeah, that's what I hear. Like the man in Alabama told me at a rest stop when my daughter was like a couple weeks old. He's like, oh, they love you to death till they're 13, and they hate your guts till they're about 30. I'm like, okay, wow, that's strong.
Yeah,
But-
it's also like, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. What'd you do?
What'd you do? Yeah, exactly, sir. What is I don't think you're all dads.
Then it's restraining orders after 16.
After that, yeah.
They love
get
it when they're
mad
babies,
at you.
but then they won't let you be in the house when their friends come over. Well, it sounds like you did.
They don't want you to drink Jack and Daniels out of the bottle on the way to school, driving them. I don't think that's an everyone thing, sir.
Yeah, that might be. This is telling me more about you than children.
Do you even have a daughter? Are you just? But yeah, so like I scaled it back. My wife was like, "I think you should," and I'm like, "That's probably a good idea." I've been gone almost like at least every other weekend for God knows how long or so, and just scaling it back, just taking a couple of dates out a month has like it's made me
I feel like a person.
happier. I've had more of a connection with my kid. Not that I should say I've maintained the connection that I had during the lockdown when it was just me and her.
Right.
So,
I've done the same. I've done the same thing, and it's also, it's I won't belabor it, but it's you get to a time in your life when that's what you do. It's like I used to feel weird that I didn't go to clubs on nights I didn't have sets, like the way I used to haunt.
Sure.
It's like, no, because I don't hang around my high school anymore either. I'm in a different
Admit
time.
it, Dana. Come on. Sure you do.
Oh man, I'm at the factory every night, hanging, seeing who's new, feeling competitive.
No, I mean, I meant your high school. You still hang around in a nice car that you've rented. But
I rent a Camaro.
I used to write for The Simpsons. I don't know what that is.
The guy that killed his wife. No.
Yeah, I mean, because when we were younger, we did that to get seen.
Yeah.
Do FaceTime, and
I don't need to be here.
If someone didn't show up, maybe they'd throw you on stage.
Yeah.
That was all it was.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Like, I don't need to be here now.
No, not at all. Tonight I have 2 sets, which is amazing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, what am I, 23 in New York City?
No, well, you're
Holy
an
shit.
animal.
I mean, and that's pretty rare. And I don't know. It's like I've actually been writing more, oddly.
That's weird. See, I have a hard time when I'm doing stand-up. I write constantly because I do most of my writing on stage,
Same.
And when I'm not, like when I'm like right now I'm writing a movie, and that's what's in my head. So it's a different headspace.
Yeah.
I love to be able to go back and forth. There's such different disciplines, and I love to be able to go on stage and just really kind of.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
extrapolate on stuff.
Yeah, it's just immediate. I've had I feel like sometimes not enough success in selling things I've written to sustain me. Sometimes, but
sure, yeah.
What do? You don't give up. You keep pushing.
Yeah.
But with stand up, it's right away. There I will try something that I'm like, I don't think this is going to go anywhere. I had a show the other night that was, I think the median age in the audience was 24, 25. They were all super young.
Sure. Were you at Supernova?
And I was thinking, no, it wasn't. It was Can't Even on top of the Mama Shelter.
Yeah, I did. I think I just did that.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh.
But I found that the stuff I was like, oh, I think this will do really well, did and the stuff I was like, I'm just going to throw this out there, did well, and I was just like, I had no idea what to close with, but I'm just like, I'll just say something that made me laugh today, and it really landed, and I was like, okay, good dismount.
And that's also the beautiful thing about doing stand up. Having done it for 100 years, still don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work.
It's so true.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'll write stuff like, well, this is going to work. Nope.
Nope. Yeah.
Nope.
It's, I finding that immediate relatability with anyone who's not me, very hard.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't think I'm that special or different. I just think I consider things on weirder levels than other people. And, I don't know.
And it's also like, I feel, comedy, I think stand-up is the younger comedians have a more, I don't know if it's like a directly conversational, people don't have as people don't do large bits.
Yeah.
I feel anymore like presentational bits. I was at Supernova, and actually it was Bill Burr. I got off stage and Bill Burr said, or it was Bill Burr, or Greg Fitzsimmons was one of the two of them. He said, it took them 15 minutes just to figure out what you were doing.
Yeah. There is a different where you've got the whole TikTok thing where people are, of course, the same jokes have been recycled a billion times.
Yeah.
There's someone who's 18 who thinks they thought of it. And I'm like, that must feel fantastic.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's so good.
I mean, the incarnations I've seen of my girls, like my boyfriend and I are in an open relationship. I think it's kind of an unspoken thing. Why? Because you don't speak about it. Exactly. Like that. Okay. That was I think When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah. Or Love American Style.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the 7-year itch. It's like all these things have been trampled to death, and you discover them and stuff.
I'll tell you what I really love, and I'm really lucky, is that I don't. And by the way, my career has suffered because of this.
Right.
I don't feel competitive with anybody.
Yeah, no.
Which is such a blessing.
Yes. I definitely get a little caught up in what's my status. You know what I mean? Which when I go, I really got a bit of a schadenfreude boost this past year where everyone was struggling to sell tickets. Everyone.
Right.
And I was like, with the exception of like, maybe not like Bert Kreischer, but he's like taken off like a rocket.
Yeah.
And I never felt any rivalry with him. And he's, he gets off a private jet and gets onto his own tour bus. It's like, whoa, I can't even.
Yeah, by the way, I had no idea.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I did, but that he has become that huge.
It's one of those things.
And God bless him. We
think of the Netflix special as the apex, and it is, but it also isn't, because you can easily get lost. His did not get lost. His went to the top of the pile and just zinged. And
Ali Wong too. It was just like
Ali Wong as well. Yeah, it just connected. I mean, honestly, first time I saw that first clip of her incredibly visibly pregnant doing a special, I was like, this is going to be the biggest thing since fucking sliced bread. This special is going to be so big, but that's so, thankfully I don't look at that and go, why not me? Though I've tried to get pregnant many times, Dave. But
that was done too. That was rabbit test.
I will. And Bert is pregnant with beers. It's all about a big belly. That's the case. And the key, but my thing is just in terms of, and this is a bit of my weakness, I get caught up in like, okay, what is my status? But I'm working on that medicine ball now in terms of throwing that out the fucking window.
Yeah.
Because I don't look at other comics and go, wait, this person's playing what theater? Because typically, especially if it's someone way younger than me, I can open up TikTok or Instagram and go, they have 5 million followers?
Yeah.
Well, of course. Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's not a mystery.
It's a one-way ticket to hell.
It really, Kyle Kinane was over, we hung out a lot this weekend. Her friend Ian got married. And so we hung out on Friday.
That's going around.
The wedding. What's that?
That's going around.
Yes, it is. And congratulations, by the way.
Very much.
Sorry I couldn't make it. But if I had canceled the trip I'd had for 2 years with my parents and their granddaughter, they would have cut out one of my eyes. Trust me.
I'll tell you a couple stories about my wedding, but you tell this story first.
So long story long, basically, the whole comparison is the thief of joy is the famous quote.
Oh, that's a great quote. Who's
there was a guy who
Stuart Margolin, oddly enough, said that.
Was that? Who was it?
Stuart Margolin. Angel from the Rockford Files.
Yes. There was a guy named Monty, one name only in Chicago, who great guy, and he's still around and very funny. A stocky guy, bald headed, and he was a comedian who had a voice like this all the time, and he also had a shirt on that said Monty on it, black T-shirt, Monty in white letter.
I love it. I love it.
I never knew this was what he would say. He'd be like, compare and despair, man. Compare and despair. I'm like, that's it.
That's from the program.
You boiled it down.
Yeah.
You boiled it down to exactly what it is.
That's
like,
it. That's from the program. Compare and despair.
Oh, it is? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Oh,
wow.
Yeah. And but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's really, yeah, no. And it's a, and I was talking to somebody, but I've never, the people that I like were never the biggest.
No.
Like, I never loved Springsteen I always liked the Pixies and Elvis.
Right.
Like, I always liked the people that, like, I never loved the giant thing. So it's not surprising that I'm.
There are comics that, I'm a Comedy Store regular, and there are people I'll see there that I'm like, not to be like, why aren't you more famous? But more, when Kevin Hart shows up or Bill Burr shows up or Seinfeld shows up, people lose their fucking minds.
Yeah.
Of course. But I wish it's one of those things where I don't miss like Fahim Anwar. Like if he is a couple guys after me, I'm gonna stick around because he always makes me laugh right away. And it's one of those things where it's just like, I wish more people looked at a lot of we know so many fucking comics like that.
Yeah. Totally.
Amy Miller, David Bory, that we're like you should know that I don't want you to worship them like you do those people that show up like they landed a flying carpet on stage.
Yeah.
On it. Just
Jeff Hatch was like that for me. I would always go find.
Oh, really? Oh, right on. Yeah. Everyone has a couple people that they're just like, yeah, it's not even, I mean,
and it was always somebody who did nothing that I was doing. Like they were a totally different style than I had, or a totally different,
Oh my God. I was so glad that Rick Ingraham got taken on the road by Chris Rock because all he does is crowd work, and it's just eviscerating and brutally hilarious.
Yep.
But really taking chances. And he's definitely a kind of an angry guy, but it never comes off mean. And it's like one of those things where like, that is such a hard thing to do. Whereas if I tried to be, like brutally honest, like as a crowd, it would be horrible. It'd be so awful. It'd be like Kevin Nealon peeing on stage. He's like, "What? Isn't this weird?" I was like, "What are you doing?" So like, he nails that. So it's like when he got taken and he's going through all like Europe and Australia, and I'm just like, good. Someone else. I'm not crazy,
Yeah. And you can never, it's just like, it also, you have a daughter, and it's just like, that's not what your joy. It's not what your kind of your joy.
No. And I'm in my late 40s. And I'm still pushing.
Yeah. You're still doing it. That's all that matters. I'm still doing it.
It's not, I kind of did it. Yeah. I'm still doing
100%.
it. The fact that I haven't had a day job since 2007 or 8 is like, okay, I'm good. I'm in
you win.
Happy relationship. We got this healthy kid. I need to not, I definitely look at Hollywood Reporter and Variety to see like, okay, what's getting
made
now? Mm-hmm. Okay, sure. But that's really the only I used to look at it and get pissed off, like I don't anymore. So that's
no, you can't. And the people that the people that were my heroes, not even comedically, but just like in show business, they've all had to eat shit.
Of course.
It's like, I love Tim Burton. He can't get a movie made.
Right.
He's, although his Netflix show looks great. I hope it's great.
That does look fantastic.
It looks great. Yeah. It looks like, hey, you tried. See what happens when you try.
And you pivoted. You had to go back because, of course, now it's just all about fucking IP. That's all it's about. What do you own? You don't own Iron Man? Get out of my office.
It's so funny you say Iron Man, because I was talking to a guy who's a movie star, and he was talking about a project he had.
I have to pause because it literally sounded like you said, a gyno who's a movie star.
I do.
Like, hold on. Who is a gynecologist movie star?
Jeff Bridges is my wife's gynecologist.
That's the only male gynecologist that should exist, quite frankly. I think he'd be friendly. He's the dude.
Do you watch The Old Man?
Yes, I love The Old Man.
I love The Old Man, but he does sound like he's waiting to swallow that last bite of sandwich. You know what I think? Just
And
swallow it.
He had the whole sandwich in his mouth during True Grit. As Rooster Cogburn.
He's got
Whole
the
sandwich.
whole. Just
Whole
talk.
sandwich. Well, he pulls his gun on me. Your Honor, I didn't hear a thing.
He's eating a tuna melt, Your Honor.
He stuffs it in there like chaw. Where did he get these made? This is the Old West.
Saddlebags full of tuna melt was the original title of True Grit.
His saddlebag reeks.
Groaning with tuna melts.
He drinks and he goes to sleep at night and leaves the saddlebag in the sun. And in the morning, the stench.
I don't know how. We're in the middle of Wyoming, but it's seagulls everywhere.
Hey,
Seagulls
Rooster,
are
I can't ride with your
saddlebag.
posse anymore. I've shot so many coyotes that keep coming over when I'm sleeping. Those goddamn sandwiches.
But no, this guy is a movie star, and he said, like, if your movie doesn't have Iron Man in it, good luck. That's exactly what he said. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's one of those things where, it's going to take two things. It's going to take, once again, I hate to say it, the government has to come in like the cavalry and break up the fucking studios and the networks. A, and B, some of these smaller, budget things have to be granted access without perpetual ownership. I'm sorry. I bet too many friends have projects pitched and it was down the line. And they were like, okay, great. We want all the rights to everything, including your name and your left eye. And you're like, a few friends of mine were just like, no, I'm going to have to walk away. And they walk away wiping tears. And a week later, the network calls them back and is like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
It's just like, why is that our only negotiable tactic? To walk the fuck away, to go, I will blow up this house we've built together.
Yep.
If you don't give me some of the rent.
No, it's also they have this mentality of the only audience that is acceptable is everyone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. 100 share.
Profit motive is great, but it's not everything, and you don't.
No, it's not everything, and
not everything has to make all the money.
All the money.
What if you just made some of the money?
And all these young creators are onto it. Like they're calling it out in the meetings where we really loved season 1, season 2. They did well. We're going to see if season 3 works, and they're basically going, "You're not going to bring it back." Like what?
Yeah,
you never do, because that's when we start making money, and that. That's why you make these contracts. And it's so like, they're not necessarily saying it right to them, but they're telling their agents, and their agents are having to be like, they know, and
they're onto us.
It's like, just give an extra piece of the crust of the sandwich that you're enjoying 90% of. That's really what it comes down to.
And eventually they always end up doing it after they've tried everything else.
Right.
And, it's like they do it instead of dying.
Right. Yeah.
But that's the only thing they would, but it takes that much.
Yeah. And it's the
they've
thing that
got a
makes
gun in my mouth. All right.
All right. Well, that's why every time growing up, it was always like this baseball guy, superstar, who no one can hit his fastball. He's making 20 million. And it's like, and then everyone bitches about why should someone make that? How much is the owner making? Like, stop it. Like, stop. Put his salary on the fucking front page.
I know.
Anytime there's these people, like most of us, really love what the Rock is doing, but I don't just mean, his performance, his persona, all that stuff. He's so personable. His workout regimen. He's a real specimen. He has his movie star business and his social media business. And I wanted to be in the room the first time he put that shit in place, because what he does is, he meets with the studio and they're like, we're really excited for the rollout of your new film. The Rock punches a building in half,
right,
whatever it is. And he's like, so am I really excited for this. And they're like, so once we do the rollout, if you could on your social media, he goes, no, that's an entirely different contract. If you want me to post on my Instagram and stuff like that, I have easily 30 million followers. That's an extra 10 million.
Yeah. Like, oh, I didn't know that.
Whatever it is. No, he has had that in place. And that's where I'm like, fuck, yes, you genius. because they're like,
Yeah.
they thought, with us, it's just like, put it all over your socials. Right. You will certainly lose followers because now they see you as a hack. But, we get no extra money. He demands his. And I love that. I think it's fantastic.
I had an idea for a limited series. I pitched it. And somebody I know in the business, professional goes, this would sell if it was already if it was a novel.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's one.
That's a lot.
I like that. I like that one. Heard that one.
Friend of mine wrote a novel and they said, this would be, if this was already a TV series, we could sell it to a publisher.
Cannot win. Yeah. I've been they were like, well, why don't you write it? I work on this huge treatment. And they're like, why don't you write it as a novel? And it's like, why don't you fucking tell me to build my own car?
Yeah.
Like,
well, no, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's like, why don't you want to make great idea. If you could build a camera and then own a chain of theaters.
Right. And we will pay you $10 a screen to show our movie.
Right. And if you can make that money, we'll take some of it. There
was an NBA guy was talking about how LeBron James made a show about it, Survivor's Remorse, where it's like you came out of the ghetto and now you have untold wealth and everyone wants you to save them and you want to save people. And there was a guy who was talking about, they were bantering about their most ridiculous requests from guys from the neighborhood. And the guy was like, hey man, you should buy a giant apartment building. And he's like, and I would help you. He's like, how would you help me? He's like, I would manage it. It's like, what? I buy a building so you can have a job? That's insane. I should do that? Is that what you're saying to me?
Oh man, but the great thing, the upside is, there is, as we were talking about, you can always get something out. You can always get something like you've done with Doug. Like you didn't go hat in hand. It's sort of like when the Beatles did Apple. There's that great quote that Lennon, when they asked Lennon in some, of course the business was a complete train wreck. Right. But they asked him why he was doing it, and he goes, "Well, if you want to make a film about nothing, you don't have to go on your knees in someone's office, probably yours."
Yeah. I mean,
by the way, berating a guy that made 1/7,000th of what Lennon made. It's like my favorite quote of it. All you need is love, the millionaires sang.
Yes. What was it? The Ruddles? All you need is cash.
All you need is cash.
Yeah. I mean, I
not that I don't love the Beatles. I love them.
Don't we all? Yes. I especially Lennon's period where he spent easily 2 years alone in a giant apartment smoking weed.
Yeah, exactly.
I respect it. Yeah. I took Doug to every major network, and it was, the big thing was like they loved it, especially the reveal. I mean, I sold the shit out of it to the point where they held on to it a long time to really fight and or decide. And it's like, in the end, I knew they were probably going to pass, but I was like, okay, I knew what deals they'd given out to other people, and I was like, okay. But I had that in my back pocket, and frankly, this probably is the best move, because even if I would have got, say, the 2-year deal at Netflix that they do, it probably would have got lost in the shuffle.
Sure.
Because it's 100%. Just a picture amongst 1,000 other pictures of comedians.
Netflix is in the Bert Kreischer business.
Yep,
and
exactly.
The Dave Chappelle business. And
every other one streamer on down, they all want to be. And so they're aiming high and giving out.
And I'm assuming that they go like, what is your social media following?
Oh, yes, of course they do. I know that's it. That's it. They're looking for marquee names. I forget how they put it.
How much of our job do you do already?
Correct. So it's either marquee names or people that have a massive social media footprint. That's really it. That's all they're looking for. And I understand that. I mean,
I do too. I get it.
To throw it back to that, what we were talking about with, Compare and Despair. I think it was, might have been Kyle pointing that out about like, anytime these comics are bitching about some unknown to them comic who got an hour, it's like, where in the world is this person from? Indonesia? They're trying to expand their footprint in Indonesia. That's what they're doing.
Yes.
The algorithm has had enough of your type. There's nothing they can do with you. Like me. They don't need me. They have Jim Gaffigan. Like, please. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not that we're the same at
that's
all.
what it is. And that's what it is. And people like...
Or Brian Regan. Brian Regan's a better point, better example.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's true. And it's just like, yeah, of course, they're trying to get, they're trying to expand into that market. So of course they're going to cater them. But it is especially with Netflix, it's the problem with monopoly. It's just like,
Yeah, well, and all the streamers being, owned by a handful of people. It's kind of like, no, you have to break that up. And also the argument of when you and I get, the contract is, it's new media. Nope. Throw that the fuck out the window. It's like, we're not in the days of the 3-minute YouTube short they're hiring you to be in. This is as big a budget as any movie.
Oh, but also, like, I know what you spend on other shit. So,
yes, exactly.
Yeah. I was like, well, we don't know. Look, we don't have a lot of money.
Where does it start up?
Well, we don't have a lot of money.
So,
but no, that's great. Well, Doug drops on, if you go to moment.co/Matt Braunger.
Yep, that's right. Or you can go to mattbraunger.com. It'll be on there too. The pre-sale.
Where'd you shoot it?
I shot it at Zany's in Nashville.
Perfect.
Yeah. Very fun. The little reveal at the end involves me bringing a random audience member up, and I really, 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 really lucked out with the one I got.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah. Not so much the second show, but I used almost all of the first show anyway, so it didn't really matter. But yeah.
Apparently, I didn't know this. Charlie Goodnights is now a pile of rubble.
It's moving. It's moved to somewhere. I believe same. I think the Helium guys bought it.
Oh yeah. I just know the old building is gone.
Wow. So it's not near the prison that housed Bernie Madoff for so many years. That's too bad. Yeah,
and he's still alive, but everyone he knows has killed himself.
No, he's dead.
Oh, he did die.
Yeah, that's why I said housed, because I remember.
When did he die?
I think he just died of old age, like last year, the year before.
And, died peacefully in his sleep.
Peacefully in his sleep, in the arms of Christ.
The special drops officially on
October 6th, and pre-sale is September 14th for 20 half off, and then. So
it's up now. Pre-sale's up now. Moment.co/Matt Braunger.
Yep. Come check out Doug. Should be fun.
And then you're available, and your previous works and your previous LPs are available at record stores and Woolworths and Woolco.
Sure, Woolworths and your local soda fountain, and under your local transient's jacket for you.
Your local licorice pizza.
Yeah, everything's all over the place. You got to look. Some platforms have taken me down. Just like a lot of comedians have been taken down from places, and I won't say what they are, but stuff's available. You can find it.
Well, they don't want to pay. That's why.
That's what it is.
They don't want to pay. All right. Matt Braunger, everybody.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Great to see you, buddy.
You too, pal.
They're true tales from Weirdsville. Tales from Weirdsville. And they're true.
Can your heart stand the shocking facts?
Lysergic acid diethylamide, commonly known as LSD. It was first synthesized in 1938 by a Swiss chemist named Albert Hofmann. Thanks, Albert. Hofmann was trying to discover an analeptic, which is a central nervous system stimulant. This was the 25th compound he attempted, hence its alternate name, LSD-25. He discovered its effects quite by accident. It is believed he absorbed it through his skin, but after he felt its effects, he began ingesting it intentionally. This was in 1943. In 1947, LSD was marketed as a psychiatric drug, with the ability to cure everything from schizophrenia to alcoholism to what they then called sexual perversion. One can only wonder what the 1947 definition of sexual perversion included. The question is, what does LSD do? How does it work? Lysergic acid diethylamide influences the receptors that allow the brain to regulate serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that allows the brain to regulate things like your mood, your motor control, visual and other sensory perceptions, your hunger, your body temperature, your sexual behavior, you name it. It changes the way the brain perceives reality. This obviously leads to visual and oral hallucinations. You can even feel things that you're not really feeling. Now, these factors can lead to intense and often violent mood swings. You can go from euphoria to terror, making the effects of your LSD trip extremely unpredictable. Now, there are, yes, positive effects of LSD. They include an enhancement of one's empathy, an increase in closeness and trust in others. It improves the interconnectivity in some brain networks, and it does make people more open to suggestion. And it was that last element of the drug that made the American CIA sit up and go, "It does what now?" But first we need a little background. You may recall from a previous True Tales from Weirdsville, covered in the Season 7 episode Post-Hallow Giving, there was a program we talked about called Operation Paperclip. Now, briefly, the story was, in the immediate aftermath of World War II, there was a race between the United States and the Soviet Union to see who could grab and employ the most Nazi scientists. Now, a lot of people who should have gone on trial at Nuremberg instead got contracts with the American Defense Department and a nice job building rockets in Southern California. One such beneficiary of this program was Wernher von Braun, who was very instrumental in the American Apollo program. There was a joke going around that Braun was aiming for London, but he hit the moon by accident. In addition to experimenting in rocketry, the Germans were also experimenting on the human mind, performing quite horrific and ridiculously inhumane experiments on prisoners of war. Oh, I'm not even going to tell you what they did. Okay, here's one. Nazi scientists were curious to know the effects on a person of repeated blows to the head with a hammer, so they did it. When these scientists were then grabbed by the CIA and brought to America and were forced to tell of their work, the CIA said, "I'm listening." On April 13th, 1953, the head of the CIA, Allen Dulles, the man who gave us the Bay of Pigs, began what became known as Project MKUltra. Now, the initial thrust of Project MKUltra was to study and hopefully come up with a mind control drug. American prisoners of war in the Korean War suffered similar attempts at mind control or brainwashing at the hands of the Soviets. The Manchurian Candidate is probably the most well-known dramatization of this threat. Now, it does seem paranoid and crazy on the surface, but the fact of the matter is, it did happen. And the United States was not about to come in second in the brainwashing race. Another goal of MKUltra was to discover an effective truth serum to facilitate the interrogation of foreign spies. The CIA had a list of goals that they had for the project. In the list, the term drug is conveniently replaced by the word materials. But on the list is, we seek development of a material which will cause mental confusion of such a type that the individual under its influence will find it difficult to maintain a fabrication under questioning. In other words, they can't keep up a lie. We want a truth serum. One must keep in mind that the 1950s was a time of incredible fear and paranoia in the CIA and in America at large. The Cold War was at its height, and fear of a communist takeover was weighing heavy on the national consciousness. To that end, the CIA wanted to know, could the Soviets dose an American spy and make him defect to Russia? And hey, while we're at it, can we dose a Soviet spy and make them defect to America, like against their will. In other words, how do we turn people into puppets? So if you are looking for the perfect truth serum, and you're looking for the best way to turn people into puppets, well, you're going to need test subjects. Well, who wants to be a test subject for that? The answer? Nobody. So the CIA began selecting subjects, as they say. People who, as described in one memo, could not fight back. Prisoners, mental patients, people who were drug addicts already. One mental patient was administered LSD for 174 consecutive days. They also dosed CIA agents, people in the military, people on the street. You can't give people LSD without their knowledge or consent. Well, you have to get them in a situation where they're not going to want to report it. This led to Operation Midnight Climax. The CIA went to San Francisco, of course, and they set up several brothels. The Johns were dosed, filmed, and observed. And when they recovered, were not very eager to make a big stink about, hey, I think somebody slipped me drugs at the brothel. And then there's the case of Frank Olson. In November of 1953, Frank Olson was given a dose of LSD without his knowledge or consent. At the time, he was in the Army, where he served as a biological weapons researcher. The CIA turned him into actual research. According to Sidney Gottlieb, a CIA chemist who was one of the principal players in MKUltra, Olson had been a willing participant in the study, but then, sometimes later, he was given the drug again without his consent or knowledge, because the CIA wanted to, see what would happen. Well, what happened was Olson threw himself out the window of a 13th floor hotel room in New York. The CIA claimed that they hadn't dosed Olson in a week. Olson's death was officially written off as a suicide following a major psychotic episode. One thing that was brought out after the investigation was that Olson suffered from suicidal tendencies, and that Gottlieb failed to take that into account. These tendencies were, of course, exacerbated by the ingestion of LSD. Gottlieb was then suggested for a reprimand. Oh no, not a reprimand. But the family of Frank Olson tells a much different story. Frank Olson's family claimed that he had become a security risk. Olson had been working as the acting chief of the Special Operations Division at Fort Detrick in Maryland. One of the projects there, in his brief, was the development of materials for potential biological warfare, as well as investigation into LSD and other mind-altering drugs to, quote, enhance the interrogation of foreign assets. Many of the scientists consulting on these programs were, as we said, former Nazis brought to America as part of Operation Paperclip, and Olson was morally conflicted. Well, he wasn't really conflicted, he thought it was wrong. So he up and quit. Yep, he up and he quit, and he threatened to go public. And a couple of days later, he threw himself out of a 13th floor window. Okay, here's the thing. I love conspiracies because they're fun. 9 times out of 10, the conspiracies I like involve UFOs or Bigfoot or both. I tend not to really believe them because it seems to me that oftentimes many conspiracies are just ways for people to attempt to force a logical outcome on an illogical world. There's no way the President of the United States can be shot in the head by a lunatic hiding in the Texas school book depository. There has to be a vast conspiracy that explains that. No, not really. You can just get shot in the head by a nut in a building. Lately, of course, conspiracies have been ruined by the QAnon and alt-right lunatics who, again, fall back on conspiracy theories to explain anything about the world that they don't like. Human shitpile Alex Jones recently summed this up inadvertently while trying to explain why he spread the false rumor that the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School was fake. He said, and I quote, "American gun owners didn't like being blamed for this, so they rejected the idea and decided it must be fake." Someone on Twitter named Flex Patriot observed quite perfectly, yeah, reality contradicted their position, so reality must be wrong. But Frank Olson's family was not diving into bizarre, crazy conspiracy theories. They had been living with Frank's growing concern and dissatisfaction with what was going on at Fort Detrick. And when they heard the government's official story, they smelled a rat from the jump. Frank Olson died in 1953. It took until 1975 for the Olson family to receive $75,000 and a formal apology from the U.S. government, although the apology was limited only to the CIA's administering LSD without his consent. But in 1994, Frank Olson's body was exhumed. A forensic pathologist examined him and determined that cranial injuries indicated that he had been knocked unconscious before he exited the window, and Frank Olson's death was re-ruled a homicide. In November of 2012, the Olson family filed suit against the U.S. government again for his wrongful death. The suit was dismissed in part due to a technicality associated with the original settlement in 1975. That said, the presiding judge did observe, quote, "While the court must limit its analysis to the four corners of the complaint, the skeptical reader may wish to know that the public record supports many of the allegations in the family suit, far-fetched as they may sound." In other words, thanks for playing, Frank. But the story of Frank Olson is just one element of America's LSD saga. Let's look at someone else. Let's look at Ken Kesey. Now, Ken Kesey is famous as the author of the novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But when he was a much younger man attending Stanford University, he volunteered to be the subject of an LSD experiment. And he enjoyed it quite a bit. In 1964, he formed a group called the Merry Pranksters, a bunch of pals that included people like Paul Krasner, Del Close, Wavy Gravy, and a musical group called the Warlocks that would soon change their name to the Grateful Dead. The Merry Pranksters liked to drive around in a school bus painted in psychedelic colors and have LSD parties. These parties were called acid tests. Tom Wolfe wrote a book about their adventures called The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. All of this activity seemed to center around the San Francisco neighborhood of the Haight-Ashbury. The Haight was home to the Psychedelic Shop, opened in January of 1966, which was opened with the goal of providing, quite simply, a clean, safe, well-lit place to buy LSD. The drug wasn't made illegal in California until October of 1966. 2 months later, in January of 1967, Dragnet premiered for its second run on American television with a cautionary tale about this demonic new drug.
Come on now, what's your name?
Don't you know my name? My name's Blue Boy.
What do you think, Joe? Cartwheels?
Oh, sugar cubes. I'll make you book. He's been dropping that acid we've been hearing about.
There I am. I'm over there now. I'm not here anymore. My hair's green and I'm a tree.
But younger people liked LSD, and the San Francisco music scene was flourishing with bands that benefited from its effects. Bands like the Grateful Dead, the Jefferson Airplane, Big Brother and the Holding Company. LA had the Doors. This music became known as acid rock and took over the radio, popularizing LSD to young people all over the country. The Beatles trumpeted psychedelia with the release of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which had a song on it called Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Get it? LSD. Actually, not so. John Lennon swears that was not what he meant. It was apparently the name of a drawing his son Julian made. Why would he lie? In January of 1969, Richard Nixon was elected President of the United States and began the first big war on drugs. Seeing adolescent drug use as a threat to national security, LSD was classified as a Schedule I drug, which means a drug with no medical use and a high potential for abuse. This put LSD in the same category as heroin and cocaine. And this was while the CIA was still actively pursuing Project MKUltra. MKUltra wasn't discontinued until 1973. As for LSD having no medicinal use, that is simply not true. The FDA has approved studies which used LSD and psilocybin to treat things like OCD, addiction. It can be used to deal with anxiety, depression, alcoholism, end-of-life anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. LSD is non-addictive. Now, there were many who claimed that, in its way, it was no different than liquor, just a different delivery system for a different kind of buzz, but essentially the two were separate but equal. Well, tell that to Joe Friday.
I'll tell you what I know. I know that, in fact, too many kids that begin with pot end up with heroin, then on to LSD. I know that if you drink, you suffer a loss of judgment if you drink to excess. But I also know that judgment returns when you sober up. I know, and so do you. When you flip out on an acid trip, you never know when you're going to slip out again. This is now, Bentley, not a couple of years ago. We've had time now to see and study the effects of LSD. People who haven't had a dose in weeks sail out on another trip. They never know when. The minute they drop one acid capsule or ingest it in any way, they bought the farm. They've lost any chance to depend on and even restore that most precious of all inner senses, judgment. And to my way of thinking, without judgment, you might as well be dead. Your brain is, so why not the rest of you?
We were talking about marijuana.
We still are. Marijuana is the flame, heroin is the fuse, LSD is the bomb. So don't you try to equate liquor with marijuana, mister. Not with me.
And now, on with the show.
Our guest today is a very, very talented writer, broadcasting personality. He's written for, among other shows that are fans of this podcast will watch, The View. And
a lot of crossover there between Dr. Z and The View.
But he is known, I'm sure, to everyone on this podcast as the co-host of the late, great Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast. Please welcome your friend and mine. And I got to say, he takes good care of himself. Frank Santopadre, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the nicest introduction I've ever received.
Well, and it's about 20 minutes shorter than your average introduction, so you have to appreciate that.
That's fine. Well, I had to do something to get Gilbert ramped up.
As Gilbert, it also doubles as an obituary.
Yes. It also served to repeatedly remind Gilbert in the first 10 minutes of the show who the guest was.
No, so let's get right into that.
Thanks for mentioning The View, by the way, and that crossover audience, because we have a lot of big Franklin Schaffner fans.
Joy Behar and Franklin Schaffner joined at the hip,
just like this. Thick as thieves.
I have a photo that I'll post on the Patreon of Rod Serling visiting the set of Planet of the Apes.
Oh, that's great.
And he's talking. It's Rod, Charlton Heston, and Franklin Schaffner. And the first thing you notice is that Charlton Heston is 4 feet taller than Rod Serling, and Franklin Schaffner is standing there with his eyes closed, rubbing his balls.
Great.
I'll send you the photo after. It's not to be missed. He's in a genital reverie and he cannot be disturbed.
Wonderful. How many people are talking about Franklin Schaffner right now?
We're the only two.
Yeah. What, 8 billion people on the planet?
When did ACP, as you call it, Amazing Colossal Podcast,
ACP.
when did that start?
You know, in the spring, actually, of 2014. And I like to say, rather accidentally, Gilbert's wife, Dara, had reached out to me and looking for someone to help Gilbert freshen up his set, his act. He was still doing Joyce DeWitt material in 2014.
But that's what I loved about him.
Mustin punchlines.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah. Where else could I go for a Ben Gazzara reference?
Of course, still doing the Ben Gazzara reference as late as 2021.
Yeah.
By the way, and he wouldn't really work with a writer. It would be daunting for any kind of comedy writer to write that kind of material. How do you even begin to get into that mind? And write non sequiturs and jokes like the Ben Gazzara bit, or so I knew it was kind of doomed from the start. But she was desperate, and William Morris was saying, please, we need new business. We need something new to put him out there with, and for heaven's sake, we need new material.
And you knew him.
The Larry Hovis jokes aren't flying anymore.
Again, I beg to differ.
You and I live for
more
Larry Hovis.
And our email group are pretty much
yes, our email group. We should explain the email group at some point.
It's taken on this sort of legendary life of its own. I've been interviewing people. Are you a part of that group? Yes, I am. Yes.
Yeah. Well, because now it's like 70 people.
Yeah.
But it started Scott and Larry and Malton and you and me and Drew, and now it's Conan and whoever else is in there now.
Patton's in there.
Pat and Michael McKean. It's a wonderful group.
Yeah.
Intimidating.
Michael McKean, he was a big get. Stephen Weber, Michael McKean, he was a big get.
Intimidating company to be in.
Indeed.
But I took the call and yes, I had known him. We had a little history. I mentioned at his memorial service. It was, and you'll, as a Simpsons writer, you'll appreciate this comparison. It was in real life the running gag of Mr. Burns never knowing who Homer was.
Right.
And having to learn his name every time, in spite of the fact that Bart gave him a blood transfusion and Marge painted him in the nude.
Right.
And Smithers would have to explain, that's one of your carbon blobs from 7 Sector G, Sir Homer Simpson. and Gilbert and I played that gag out in real life because I had met him at least 30 times. Been to his home, had dinner with him, written material for him on Caroline's Comedy Hour, written material for him.
Caroline's Comedy Hour.
There's another shout out to the past. That's where you and I first met, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, I must have done that.
Richard Jenny was the host, and you came and did that show, and that's where you and I met in the green room of that show.
Not a lot of other people in the. I'll hear you. We're a teal blazer. There's not a lot of people.
No. Old Mets announcer Lindsey Nelson and Rich Jenny are the only two people that could sell a teal blazer.
Richard Jenny, the Mets announcer, and the Martians from Mars Attack. The only people that could really pull off teal.
So that's where you and I met, but I digress. I just kept running into Gilbert, running into him socially. I ran into him at a Nickelodeon party. I ate at his table. I'd been out to dinner with him. I'd written material for him. He had no idea who I was. And every time I met him, I had to reintroduce myself.
Right.
So yes, did I know him? Yes. I mean, did he know me? No.
He knew you in theory. He knew you were a guy, and he knew
I was a guy that he would see a lot.
Yeah. And he knew that you could pick Zeppo marks out of a photo.
Or Gummo.
Yeah, or Gummo.
But of course, we also had this, and I'm digressing again, but I'll get to the answer. We had this adventure in L.A. and you've heard this story too, I think. You remember the old Beverly Garland autograph shows?
Of course.
In North Hollywood?
Oh, I could tell you stories.
I'm sure you could. I was living in L.A. I was out for a random drive on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, and I saw him. They say nobody walks in L.A., but Gilbert Gottfried does because he never got a driver's license. So I see Gilbert in my rearview mirror wandering aimlessly down Ventura Boulevard. Early in the morning, and I do a U-ey on Ventura Boulevard, and I said, I got to go talk to Gilbert, and I pull up alongside him, and I roll down the window. Again, now this is our 14th, 15th meeting. No idea who I am. And he's walking away
he was
from me.
Going to get kidnapped. Yeah.
He liked to say that I drove up in a black van and offered him candy. But he's walking away. He's slowly moving away from the car as I'm rolling up alongside him with the window down. I'm saying, Gilbert, I wrote for you. We worked on Caroline's Comedy Hour together. I've been to your house. I've met your children. Nothing is registering until I say.
Dives into the reservoir.
Yeah. And he's moving away and he's moving away and he's waving politely until I say, I'm going to an autograph show and Norman Fell and Howard Morris are going to be there. And before I finished the words be there, he got into the front seat. He's in the car.
Howard Morris, for those of you who don't know, Ernest T. Bass.
Yes. Editor's footnote. Ernest T. Bass and, of course, Uncle Goopy.
Yeah, I used to see Howard Morris at Jerry's Deli. He was part of like a Sunday breakfast. It was like him, Steve Landisberg.
Oh,
and
the greats.
A bunch of other guys. And,
when Sportsman's Lodge was booked.
Exactly.
Moving over to Jerry's Deli.
Exactly.
But he got in the car and I spent the entire drive to the Beverly Garland trying to get him to remember who I was, but it scarcely mattered because now I was not important. Now I was the means of transportation.
Going to be Norman Fell.
It was an all-star. It was like it was handpicked. It was for Gilbert. We walked in your pal Don Knotts is in the Barney Fife.
Oh my Lord!
He's in the outfit. To 1999.
Okay, so this is a heyday. Yeah, this is
2000 maybe.
Yeah. Wow.
I get you an exact year. I was writing Nickelodeon shows, and so I would run into Gilbert at Nick parties because he was doing voices.
Right.
And Howard Morris is there. Norman Fell is there. Don Knotts is there. Adam West is there.
Right. God, I might have been at that one.
You might have been. I'm trying to remember.
If Mila Nurmi was there, I was there.
Mila, I don't remember you. Well, of course, you and I would have certainly known of each other by then because Caroline's was in 94. Right. 93, 94.
Right.
And we had mutual friends like Dan Rosen.
Yeah.
And some other people. But I don't remember Mila Nurmi, but the woman, Adriana Castellotti, and I've told this story on the podcast, and so did Gil, who played Snow White, the voice of the original Snow White, was in the Snow White getup.
Why would they make
full makeup?
Give these people some dignity.
She made a beeline for Gilbert, and she latched herself onto his arm and began to sing "Someday My Prince Will Come."
Oh my Lord!
Every word of it, Dana. And a small crowd gathered. And Gilbert had done Aladdin. He had been Iago in Aladdin to this point. And so we all naturally assumed that she made the beeline for him and seized upon him because he was a fellow Disney person. He couldn't get away. He thought she was going to sing about 5 lines. She sang the entire goddamn song.
Oh, no.
And then she looked at him. He was locked. And then she looked at him and she said, "And you are?" Which doubly mortified him.
Oh, God.
So we had this story in common. We spent the entire day there.
Yeah, sure.
Next time I ran into him, no idea.
Unbelievable.
No idea. So when Dara called
Did you go like Beverly Garland?
Yeah, Gilbert, we spent a day together. I introduced you to Adam West.
Adam West used to stay there. I mean, when Adam West lived in, I think, Ketchum, Idaho. And he had a room there because he knew Beverly. And
Scream Queen Beverly Garland.
Yeah. And he had but he would come in to do Family Guy or what have you. And that's where he lived.
Unbelievable.
Beverly Garland.
Give me. I'm going to make you. I'm going to stop.
I'll tell the story.
I'm going to make you give me a little of Adam because I'm greedy.
Rob Cohen and I worked with Adam on something, and then we went to the Beverly Garland, and he was there right around the same time.
Yeah,
and he was there, and we were like, "There's no way he remembers," because it was like 2 years ago that we'd worked with him, and we're like, "There's no way he remembers us," but we'll go up to him and we'll introduce ourselves. And we're walking towards, and he looks up and he goes, "Here comes trouble. How are you two geniuses?" And we levitated off the ground. Like we were so...
I love it.
Adam West knows us. Adam West knows us.
Are you the only guy in show business doing Adam West?
No, Jeff Garland also does a very good
Jeff Garland does Adam West?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to make Jeff do Adam West.
Here comes trouble. How are you two, genius? I have to get back to Idaho. My wife called. Apparently we have 10 inches of fresh powder.
Gilbert spent he was in his glory meeting Adam, Norman Fell, Jonathan Harris might have been there.
I have another great Jonathan Harris. I have 2 Jonathan Harris stories.
Let's lay them on me.
So it was it was right when the movie came out with Gary Oldman and William Hurt.
Yes.
And I said, "Are you going to be in the movie, Mr. Harris?" And he grabbed my forearm because he's at a table, and he grabs my forearm and he goes, "They offered me a cameo, not this chicken sister." But purportedly, according to podcast guest Jeff Bond, straight dude with a wife, guy from the Bronx.
Yeah.
And Jeff told on this podcast, Jonathan talking about Irwin Allen's widow, going, whatever her name was, let's say it's Mary. That wasn't her name. She goes, Mary's going to get the money, and she should get the money because she's a good broad.
If you had Jonathan Harris being British and gay in the pool, you lost.
Yeah.
And everybody thought that.
Yeah. Straight from the Bronx.
Yeah.
So those
were good days. He spent the entire day hanging out with Priscilla Barnes you knew where Gilbert's bread was buttered.
Right, but it was also the least, it's like Adam West, Priscilla Barnes, Tracy Scoggins.
I couldn't pull him away from Priscilla Barnes. So I was on the Joy Behar show as a writer, and Gilbert became, and now this is in the mid 2000s, 2006,
the Naughties.
The Naughties. And Gilbert was he was the emergency guest. He was the Tony Randall. He was our Tony Randall.
Yeah, right.
So we'd pull Gilbert in at a moment's notice. I think in our last week of shows, he was one of our last guests because somebody big canceled. And he said, Joy, I'll never do this show again after we'd been axed. But Dara, his wife, who had manners and social graces.
Yeah. She
would introduce herself to me. And so over the years, I got to know Dara. So I was Gilbert was grudgingly getting to know me through his wife. Because his wife.
Okay, yeah.
So I was the call that she made when she decided, and when William Morris begged her, give us new material, freshen this guy's act. And she called me, and it led to nothing. I couldn't write for him. He had no interest in paying a writer. I find that shocking.
Yeah.
I didn't even, it was a fool's errand, but we just got into talking about these kind of people. He'd just say, oh, hey, I just saw Simon Oakland in something. and how many people are going to engage him on the subject of Simon Oakland?
Yeah. Everyone in this conversation.
Or Ivan Dixon.
Sure.
Or
Robert Clary.
Robert Clary or Stuart Whitman or any of these people. And we just talk for hours and hours, making each other laugh.
Right.
And we weren't working. It was just hooky on the phone. We weren't getting anything done.
Yeah.
And Dara would just hear him howling, and my wife would hear me howling, and we'd sit on the phone till 2-3 o'clock in the morning just talking about nonsense, fake Shemp, and Mr. Belvedere sitting on his balls. And all the greatest hits. And Sammy Petrillo. And,
everything I like.
Yeah. Now this is 2014, and podcasts weren't quite the thing they became. It was still a nascent medium to some degree.
You know who I have to thank for opening my eyes to that, and I think of it because it was his birthday yesterday. Your friend and mine, Drew Friedman.
Yes, let's thank Drew.
Any relation to persons living or dead is purely coincidental. That
right here.
Yeah, that book for me was like when a musician sees the Velvet Underground or something. Sure. Or it was like, oh, I can do that?
Sure. Billy Joel seeing the Beatles on Sullivan and deciding he's going to be a rock star.
Yeah, it's like, wait, I'm allowed to find humor there?
And Richard Deacon jokes.
I can make Tor Johnson jokes.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm in. You have my money.
I agree. It was freeing and inclusive and all of the above.
That book still just, he says many, many, many books, but that was the first one that rang my bell.
Well, we'll plug it because it's still available on Amazon. Yeah. And people that love your show and that love this kind of minutia should own that book.
Yeah, it's the Rosetta Stone of that. Certainly, every joke Dr. Z has ever uttered is traced back to.
I love seeing those things. I love seeing the Chopin stuff and the Dr. Z stuff, and then seeing the Drew references.
Yes.
All of this 100%. Stuff eating itself.
Yes. And Shea Penn,
another genius, Chris.
Yeah, Chris Shea. Yeah, Gerd Frobe's Goldfinger colonoscopy chalet.
Fantastic. But again, it's comforting because it reminds us that we're not the only ones. That we care about this stuff.
There's actually 8 of us.
And that, Larry and Scott. Yeah. That brings me back to the origins of the podcast because we had no idea Of course, yes. If we sat down and we thought about it, we'd say, Drew will care. Dana Gould will care.
Right.
He'll listen to us talk about Sammy Petrillo, and Jonathan Frid for half an hour.
Sure.
and the Route 66 episode that had Lon Chaney Jr.
Something Owlet's Wing.
Yeah, the one Gilbert's obsessed with.
Yes.
But we couldn't have imagined that there were that many of us, that it would create a community. And I think you must have discovered that too with your show.
100%.
Because so much of your show is a tribute to that kind of show business.
Yeah, more Dr. Z than this too. I mean the podcast too. I like you and like Gilbert, like I do what I like. Like I know if
it's not work.
Yeah, if I am fully aware that if I change the scope of this show to I'm a straight white man, therefore the most oppressed minority in the country, I could quadrillion my
big bucks.
But I have a soul and won't do that.
Of course. Yeah. Work in some hydrochloroquine and some
exactly. Yeah. I don't want to. I still like to look at myself
silver,
in the mirror.
Colloidal silver ads.
Colloidal silver. I still like to look at myself in the mirror.
Me too. But we had no idea. It was Dara who was listening to these conversations, listening to us laugh. It did her heart good to see him get on the phone. He was not a person to really make friendships easily.
No, she said to me, I think the first time I did the show in New York, she said, it's like there are so few people that he opens up to like that.
You were the perfect guest for this show. People like you, people like Drew, people like Leonard.
Yeah,
Malton, who spoke his Frank Conniff, those kind of people who spoke
as Bobcat Goldthwait. As Bobcat Goldthwait would say, star-bellied sneeches. You found the other star-bellied sneeches.
That's very, very well put. Yeah, and then he would open up because he was painfully shy. He was probably, I'm not going to diagnose him, but after all the time that I spent with him, I could say with some confidence that he was on the spectrum.
Sure.
And did not make friends, would shut down easily. So she saw him opening up. Right. She saw him gleefully sitting on the phone with somebody talking about Walter Slezak for 3 hours. Or Maurice Evans as a nod to you. And she called me and she said, well, what do we do with this? And I said, well, what do you do with it? I don't know what you don't do anything with it. I mean, I didn't have podcasting on the brain. He didn't know what a podcast was. Never did through the 7 years. No, he never figured that out.
Never realized it.
But we decided to take a chance and try to make something. And she said, listen, you would love this stuff. Gilbert loves this stuff. There must be other people who will listen to it. And I thought, man, this is going to be cult.
Yeah.
This is going to be a cult in a cult.
Right.
And she called me.
I know the feeling.
Right. So we thought, we'll do it for fun and we'll do it for laughs. And Gilbert and I both thought maybe there'll be 6. It'll be fun. She said Erwin Corey.
Erwin Corey.
That was our first guest that we never aired it because he was 112 and barely sentient. So the first one we did not have an auspicious beginning. There's
a woman. I'm blanking on her name, but again from the email is Cliff Nestoroff knows her. If I told you her name, you'd know it. Or if I showed you her photo, you'd know it. She'd been on like 100 drag nets.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. She's like 93 and lives in Cliff's building.
Mm-hmm.
And he's friends with her.
Of course he is.
Like, I might have to.
Of course he is.
There's not a lot of people that can give you the inside scoop on Harry Morgan.
No. Well, listen, I live on the Upper East Side in the 70s, and she died a couple of years ago. There was a woman named Greta Thyssen, or Thiessen, Thiesen, and she walked around. She was in her 90s, late 80s, certainly early 90s, looked to be. And my wife, and she was always went out of the house dressed to the nines. Like she was dressing for the Oscars.
Right.
And we'd see her in the bank. And my wife said, she must be somebody to dress like that, to make that kind of an effort every day. I struck up a conversation with her one day in the local diner and found out that she was a Marilyn Monroe understudy. She'd work with the Stooges.
Wow. Yeah, you get the weird. You get those, and I got to think of this woman's name. I'll put it in. And I also love that she still lives in Hollywood. Like she's
it's great. Still waiting for the call.
Yeah, still gotta get in there. The weirdest like celebrity on the weirdest celebrity on the street. The two of them come to mind. Walking to the bank, and an older gentleman is leaving the bank, and he holds the door for me. And it was Sidney Poitier.
Oh, beautiful.
And I said, I think I should be holding the door for you. And he laughed. And I was like, okay, that was good. Keep going. Don't talk to him. Keep going. That was a perfect.
Nice. Perfect, tidy encounter.
Yeah, tidy. Yes. Kept going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was, this is back in the days of video stores. I was renting Tom Waits' Big Time, which was his concert movie, on VHS cassette. And I turned to my right, and there was Tom Waits.
There you go.
In the video.
Listen, I could do 2 hours. I could talk for 3 hours to someone like you.
Yeah.
About just odd celebrity sightings.
Yeah.
And the weird contexts of them. You know, you used to see, and when I lived in LA, and Farmers Market is still thriving, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Fairfax.
Yeah.
You'd see a lot of these old character actors. Do you know the guy from Moonstruck, the uncle? Louis Gust, you know that actor?
Yeah.
And I'd see him in the farmer's market and you know, people who were like bit players, whose faces you knew, and nobody knew their names. And of course, this is how I used to amuse myself.
Right, yes.
My years in LA without a job and nothing but time on my hands.
When you are, as Kevin Rooney says, if you don't have a job in LA, you're just a dog with shoes.
Correct. Well said, Kevin. God bless Kevin.
God bless Kevin.
There was another actor named Val Bisoglio, who we just lost, and I guess people would know him as John Travolta's father in Saturday Night Fever.
Okay, right.
So these are famous faces.
Right.
With names that nobody ever know. And I would take great pleasure in going up to them and say, hello, Mr. Bisoglio.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Gus.
And they go nuts.
They'd flip out. They'd flip out because they'd gone 40 years. They've toiled in obscurity for 40 years without anybody ever knowing their name.
Yeah.
And so those kind of people, we thought, well, let's get these people on the show. Let's get them to tell their stories because they may not be famous, but they'll be eyewitnesses to great stuff.
Well put. Yeah.
That's how we looked at it, you know. The Irwin Corey episode did not go well. We went to Irwin's house. Gilbert and I had no idea what we were doing. We had no idea what we were doing technically.
Have like a Niagara?
What's a Niagara? You know, what a reference. Yeah, and a Steenbeck. I had a Steenbeck. I had a moviola on wheels that I brought in to Irwin's living room. Irwin was huddled up under a blanket on a lazy boy recliner. He looked like he was. He looked like E.T. in the basket on the bike.
Yeah.
And
still waiting on a call from Merv.
He was waiting for Merv and Mrs. Miller to call.
Yeah,
and we knew that we 10 minutes in we were sunk. He wasn't making any sense. Every third anecdote was lucid. Lovely man, very funny, very accommodating. And Gilbert and I had no chemistry, no rapport on the mic. We didn't know what we were doing. And we told this story on the podcast many times. We walked to a pizzeria, which Gilbert referred to as a pizza store. This I love about Gilbert. Like lost in time.
Well, yeah. God bless him.
God bless him. Pizza store, and that caught on with our fans. That caught on with our fans. Pizza store became a meme and everything else.
We go to a pizza store.
Yeah, to lick our wounds. And Gilbert said to Dara, well, it was a nice idea. We gave it a shot. And I didn't want to give up on the idea because I thought there was something there.
Yeah.
And then I said, I called Dara and I said, let's get an automatic guest. And she said, what's that? And I said, someone who will essentially interview themselves.
Right.
Someone, as my boss, Joy Behar, says, you put the nickel in to the Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
and they just go.
Put the record on the knee. Put the needle on the record and let them rip. Yeah.
And that was Dick Cavett.
Perfect.
And he lived across town on the west side.
He did your first 6 episodes.
Yes. So I said, Gilbert, look, the guy's got Groucho stories galore. You know, he knew Zeppo. He knew George Kaufman and Perelman and all of these people.
Yeah.
Orson Welles, Betty Davis, you go on all day. And Dick Cavett came to Gilbert's apartment on a snowy March day, and we sat at the kitchen table. I still have the photos, and I remember it like it was an hour ago. And magic happened. We turned those mics on, and Dick and Gilbert started doing the old Groucho and kind of ripping on Dick as old Groucho, and Dick was giving it as good as he got. He went into
underrated wit.
Underrated as a funny person, yeah.
Yeah, underrated wit, Dick Cavett, yeah.
Wrote jokes for Carson and Jack Parr, you know?
Yeah, and there's so much, there's a lot of old Tonight Show and Hanging with Dr. Z, and there's a lot of Dick Cavett.
The name drop, the special name dropping,
and just this, all the fonts,
right?
And I watched a lot of Dick Cavett, and he's interviewing Grace Slick and Stephen Stills the day after Woodstock.
Yep,
and they've not slept, and they're on God knows what, and he did professional work in not always ideal circumstances.
Oh, certainly not.
Yeah,
certainly not. And he could hold his own. I mean, he could with funny people.
100%. Yeah,
underrated as a wit, underrated as a comedy writer. Started as a stand-up.
Right. There's one where he's interviewing Sly Stone, and Sly Stone is clearly just gone. He just babbling incoherently. And at one point, Dick just looks at him and he goes, "Hello."
You look at them now and he looks a little bit like a fish out of water with some of those rock stars, but not how many people could do it as well.
How many could do it? Yeah. I don't know if Carson, I don't know if Carson could have interviewed Grace Slick in 69.
No. Or John and Yoko and
exactly
the way he did. And I think it's
How about Buddy Rich instead of Grace Slick? How about Buddy Rich? Same thing.
Same thing. Matt Monroe.
Yeah.
Get him to sing that Bond theme.
Yeah. It'd be good. Shirley Bassey.
And I will say this about Dick too, who I think is 84 and still sharp and still funny. That is a lost art, certainly on television.
Yeah.
That long form interview where you could get Orson Welles for an hour.
Yeah.
Or a panel of Frank Capra and Peter Bogdanovich and Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. And you see a lot of those, like wrestling with really big egos.
Sure. He was good at that too.
Yeah. And letting them, giving them enough rope. And it's really, really brilliant. So you put that out and then you decide we're going to do this every week, every month.
Yeah. I mean, he was
on the road a lot then, or what was he doing?
Gilbert was still on the road.
Mm-hmm.
He was still doing his road dates, and so we had to record during the week.
Right.
We didn't get a studio by the time you did the show, which I want to say is
2016. Was the first
okay,
time.
We were there in a studio. We were actually pretending to be professionals by that point.
Sure.
We had recorded the first 35 were recorded either in Larry Storch's kitchen. Which is where we did a show, or Barbara Walters. Thank you, Frank. Or Barbara Feldon's dining room.
Wow.
Or Larry and Scott's hotel room.
Right.
When they were in town for Big Eyes.
Wow.
We were basically nomadic, and the rest was Gilbert's kitchen. Jay Thomas came over. Judd Apatow came over. Bierko came over, and Richard Kind, and we'd sit at Gilbert's kitchen table. Dara was the engineer. We had no idea what we were doing. Really, it was
amazing.
It was a misguided labor of love.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I mean, in that regard, it was just beautiful. Yeah.
And I'm nostalgic for those days too. I'm nostalgic for the days that we didn't know what we were doing and we didn't know what we had.
Right. Yeah.
One of the last episodes recorded in the apartment.
You did 600 full total?
Ultimately, with the mini episodes, which we started doing on Thursdays, which was just me and Gil. kicking around weird topics like Irwin Allen movies.
Right.
I think well over 600. I think close to 650.
Right.
Wow. Really tiring. Yeah, really tiring.
I have a different schedule. I've been going for 11 seasons.
Yeah, you
I
do
have
seasons.
17 episodes. I have total.
Right. See, now I could learn from you, Dan. My wife likes to say, if you do this again, learn from people.
I do
maybe
1
do
6-hour episode every year and a half.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a good idea. See, we locked ourselves into weekly, because coming from television.
No, you're smart. You did it the right way. You did.
I didn't know any better. I thought you do it like you do a show a week, you know, and then I was locked in for 50 shows. And I worked through the 4th of July. I worked Memorial Day. Someone had to edit the show. Yeah,
it's a lot of work. Yeah,
over my life.
Someone once said to me, a podcast person said, like, you have a very good audience despite every single thing you throw at them.
That's an interesting compliment.
Yeah, it wasn't a compliment. Yeah. It's like you were literally doing everything wrong.
But you're onto something with seasons. And Karina Longworth also does seasons.
Yeah.
And then she takes a bunch of weeks to rest.
Yeah, I don't take any time off, but I just clock it to like, well, this year, next year, yeah. Just to help me keep track of it.
I had a full-time job at The View. I was also writing radio comedy. I was working for I was freelancing for something called Overnight Comedy Prep. You know what that is?
No.
Radio stations around the country that don't want to pay comedy writers.
Sure.
Morning zoos and the like. Subscribe to a third-party service
that will give them bits.
That gives them little bits and top 10 lists and funny celebrity horoscopes.
Oh, that's good. No, that's good.
Monologue jokes. And so I was writing every night for 430 radio stations around the country through this service, doing The View in the morning and the podcast in my off hours, but I didn't have any off hours.
Right. Yeah.
No time to have a marriage, or take my wife somewhere.
Right. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time.
It was the main Gilbert show on Mondays was 90 minutes. And then Earwolf, our company at the time, Earwolf Stitcher, said, well, we're getting feedback that the fans would like to hear just you and Gil sometimes and not with a guest. So we added this thing called Colossal Obsessions.
Right.
Which was just me and Gilbert on a topic.
Mm-hmm.
We'll kick around disaster movies, bad musicals, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I was doing an hour and a half show and an hour show in a week.
Ooh.
And prepping it all and cutting it all.
And cutting it, yeah.
And the cutting it takes hours and hours.
Tell me about it.
I know you know, brother. I burned out around 2017.
Uh-huh.
But I did not have the luxury of stopping. So I went another 5 years.
Yeah.
We kept signing contracts with different companies.
Yeah, it works for me because I'm so terrified of having a moment free. Does your wife have that conversation with you, or you? She's my cat is
marriage.
We've been together for a long time, but I think it works because she's just the opposite. Cat refers to herself as a snake. She's like, I'll get out of bed. Maybe I'll slither into the living room.
I wish I was that kind of person.
Yeah, I roar out of bed at 7.
You and I are being chased by demons.
Yeah, height of the pandemic, I was up at 7, fully dressed, wearing a belt, drinking coffee, getting ready to go.
Blacktopping the driveway?
Oh, I was, I can't.
My wife said to me the other day, do you enjoy this? Is this like working 70-hour weeks? Is this pleasurable to you? Is this where you is this where you idle? And I didn't know what to say, but there's some ugly truth to it.
Yeah. And I also feel that if I've done it, I've earned the chance to relax a little bit.
Sure.
And for me, that's 35 minutes. Like I get it. I'll watch sit on the couch and watch a Perry Mason and feel like,
right.
Like Keith Richards in the south of France.
Or Knowing You, it's a Dragnet episode.
Yeah. I like a lot of Perry too.
Yeah, Perry
I
Mason.
like shoulder pads.
I think for me, what had happened with the podcast too was psychological, and I discussed this on some. I told this story on somebody else's show. I had so many lean years in the business in LA, and I gave up my life in New York, ended a long-term relationship, moved to LA for a terrible sitcom that was quickly axed. And then I just drifted doing odd writing jobs in LA for so long that now I had something that felt right to me.
Yeah.
And I kind of had, and a guy who always wanted to be in late night and never could get in the late night rooms. Now I was sitting there interviewing Patton.
Right.
And I was sitting there interviewing Dana Gould, and I was interviewing, Mike Reese and comedy heroes. And I didn't want to let it go. I thought it was a little bit like a hungry dog eats all the food that you put down in front of him because he doesn't know if there's,
exactly.
if there's gonna be another meal.
You just take everything. You take everything because it's feast or famine. Yeah. I had
so many years of famine that when that's why I had so many jobs. That's why I never stopped working, because I take, just about every job that comes down the pike. But the podcast started to feel like now for the first time in my career, something I'm exceptionally good at, I think. Right. Not to sound self-serving, but at least something that feels right to me and feels comfortable to me.
Sure.
And of course, just being in that room, sitting in a room with you and Gilbert and the laughter, sitting in a room between Gilbert and Stephen Wright.
Oh my God.
Between Gilbert and Bobcat, where am I going to get this experience?
Yeah.
Again, to say nothing of interviewing Carl Reiner and Dick Van Dyke and So I couldn't let it go. And, call it an addiction or a feeling that I'd finally arrived at something that felt right.
I think it's that. I think it's just like, no, this is like what I do. This is, it's
what
I
do.
I'm sure you've read On Writing, like Stephen King.
Sure, of course.
Like
I have it here.
Or Elvis Costello.
And Lamott's book.
Yeah. The people that I like and gravitate towards are all the same thing. It's like Stephen King writes every day because he has to.
Yeah.
Elvis Costello releases an album every 9 months because he has to write. He has to work. He's got all that stuff. And those are the people that I relate to. It's like, no, I don't. I mean, but it's also, especially with a podcast, you talk about like not being in late night rooms. The great thing about the podcast is you can do exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Talk to whoever you want. And one of the reasons why this show never even went on a network, I was just like, I am not taking notes. I am not releasing on a schedule. I'm like, this is my golf.
Yeah.
I have a whole
passion project.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of other stuff that I do for money.
Right.
This is what I love to do. And no, I'd rather make less money and have it be slightly harder for people to get, but I can do what I want with it.
I get it. You just reminded me of an old Dana Gould joke.
My apologies.
It was a joke about people who worship Jim Morrison. You remember the bit?
Oh God.
And you said, at least worship if you want to worship somebody, worship Van Morrison. At least the guy puts out a new album every year.
Yeah, that's right. He's still making music.
Do you remember doing that joke?
I do. It was funny you say that.
Remember your act from 93.
I was going to say, it's a good memory. I live up the street from the Laurel Canyon Country Store where he hung out, which is on Love Street. And that's the song and the stores and the song, et cetera, et cetera. There's a big painting of him when you walk in the store. And there's a coffee place. My friend Spike runs this coffee bar outside of the store, coffee wagon. And Spike said, I'm sitting here one day and a car pulls up, a guy gets out and I'm looking at him and it's David Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
He goes and he walks up the stairs, looks at the painting and just goes to nobody. Morrison, you dork, and walks in the store.
To nobody.
Morrison, dork.
The other Dana Gould bit I remember from Caroline's Comedy Hour was the River Phoenix bit about being slipped a Mickey.
Oh yeah! Wow.
In the Viper room.
Yes.
What was the bit? What would kill? What would possibly take the life of a 23-year-old millionaire?
Yeah.
Viper room at 3:00 in the morning.
What could it possibly be? What could have happened? Wow.
So that's how the show began, and that's why I couldn't let it go when we finally got some momentum and some speed, and people like you started coming in, and we had a real studio and a real engineer, and then it actually became a job.
And then it became a job, but it's still a job you love to do.
Yeah, I mean, to the point, yes and no. I mean, I loved it, and I wouldn't trade any of it, but it burned me down.
Sure.
It took a toll.
And also, like, what you can't do with Gilbert is go, hey, I need you to do this.
No. I need you to work harder, Gilbert.
Yeah, he would. I'm assuming that Gilbert's sort of like a snowman. He exists in perfect form under very specific conditions.
Sort of hilarious analogy. And I love him to death. I really do. I still love him very much.
Of course you do.
But he would laugh. He would be laughing at this criticism louder than anybody,
right?
Because he loved to take delight in his own his own failings and his own lack of effort was very funny to him.
Sure.
There were people we could have had on the show had he just made a phone call.
Yeah, I'm like
Mel Brooks, like Eddie Murphy.
I'm like that too. I'm like that too, specifically with one of those people. It's like, just call him. I'm like, no, I'm not going to call him.
Yeah, there you go.
The reason we're friends is I haven't called him.
Well, and that's the other thing. Kevin Pollak said he ended his podcast because he got tired of asking all of his friends to do it.
Yeah, it's like being in charge of the guy who gives jury duty out.
It's a little bit. A little bit. To all the people who say, Frank, keep going, do another show. And it's very, very flattering. And I love it. They don't realize that, your Rolodex is not unlimited.
No, and you hate
relationships.
Did you guys have a booker?
No, it was all me, brother. Once we went through Gilbert's 14 showbiz friends,
right?
And when I say he knew a lot of people.
Please welcome Lucian Holt.
Lucian Holt. What a reference! Boy, I got to stop and think about it and knock me off my pins. I don't mean to say he didn't have friends, but once we went through Penn Jillette and Bob Saget,
right,
and the staples, and Howie and the guys, Mandel, and the guys that you knew were going to do the show,
right.
That was the thing about Gilbert. When you got into the show 40, we were out of guests,
right.
Just like when you got into, we started those mini episodes. The original premise was movies. I said, this is simple, Gilbert. You pick a movie, I'll pick a movie. We'll dissect them for 15 minutes each, make these tidy 30-minute episodes.
Right.
He ran out of movies 27 episodes in. Now, you can't tell me he hasn't seen more than 27 movies.
Yeah.
He just stopped. He said, I can't think of any.
Gilbert, I can relate. He's on a very... I talk about him in the present tense. It's the same with Kevin Rooney.
I should do that too.
And same with Kevin. Very specific wavelength. It's like No, I don't want to get too serious. I don't want to get too down, but I am struck by similarity with your friendship with Gilbert, my friendship with Kevin.
Sure.
They both passed very similar time. Did not a lot is known. You knew Gilbert had been unwell for a while, or was
a number of years. Yeah.
Yeah. But was it sudden?
No.
This was something that
he had a progressive, a degenerative condition that was worsening and worsening.
Right. So you knew it was on the horizon.
Yeah, I would say I thought
Kevin was the same way. Kevin was the same way.
I remember how long Kevin was sick.
Yeah.
A comedy genius, by the way, as long as we're talking about Kevin.
Yeah.
And a nice man and a mentor to so many people. You're
talking to one of them.
I didn't know him well, but very encouraging to me in my LA days.
The greatest. We're talking about Kevin Rooney.
Late great Kevin Rooney.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought the show was going to end in 2016. I thought the show was going to end in 2017. I mean, his health would wax and wane. He would rally.
He did a Plan 9 from Outer Space live, and I had to help him up like 3 stairs. And I thought, that's odd.
Yeah. They had it at Caroline's. They had to build a ramp because he couldn't even get. Because the myotonic dystrophy had basically withered his muscles away.
That's what it was.
He couldn't take stairs. He couldn't even step up onto a comedy club stage without being helped up. But the problem was it affected his heart, and that was
it was an involuntary muscle that it eventually took him. But what is also interesting is that, but boy, he would get to that mic and it was just like turbo. It was like nothing was the same. Nothing was different.
People refer to him as fearless. as a comedian, as a performer, and he showed me something. I mean, he showed up for the show every week.
Right.
This show, podcast, when he was in bad health.
Right.
With wide-ranging results. But he you'd get on that stand-up stage and give you everything he had.
Yeah, I mean,
he knew how to hit the mark.
He would love this analogy. Who was the same way? Bob Hope.
Let's go for the sweater full of light bulbs.
Yeah, but it was on that show.
On that special,
where, right.
I
was standing 3 feet from the guy, and he looked like a pile of peppers. And then they introduce him, and he walks out, and he got a foot taller, and
that's it.
Just like
Gilbert was of that school.
Yeah.
For a guy, and he used to joke that he would hope the comedy club called and said, "We had a fire. You don't have to go on."
Every comedian thinks that all day long.
Yes, of course. But even in
please let it burn down.
Oh, he wanted so badly to get those calls. When the sprinkler system went off, we get places flooded. Send the check. We'll pay you anyway.
Yeah.
But he had a work ethic in that sense. He was a conundrum for me because I couldn't get him to work that hard on the podcast. And I was starting to say this before. I think he never saw it as a business or a money-making enterprise. We did okay. I think he saw it as a hobby. I think he saw it as a diversion. I think unless big money was flooding in,
right?
Unless he was seeing Corolla money,
or Rogan money,
that would have gotten his attention,
right?
But I think he saw it as some diversion, something that he did for kicks. Oh, I get to talk to Dana Gould or goof around with Brad Garrett.
But
and talk about Bela Lugosi.
It was a big part of his career because it keeps you in the
that was
marketplace,
the goal.
In the marketplace.
And that was William Morris's goal when I got the first phone call, and that was ultimately Dara's goal. Suddenly, he could be booked on Colbert and Fallon, even with a podcast, because they had something to promote.
Right? They have, and it's. I mean,
So it did him that service.
And it's. I mean, I like the great thing about technology and social media. One of the few good things about it is that it has removed those gatekeepers. And I had lunch with my personal appearance agent, who was saying, you do a special. If it's not on Netflix, just put it on. You do just as well to put it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody just said something similar to me.
Yeah, it's just like that, or do an EP or a mini special, and it's like that. The gatekeepers of I'm either going to get an HBO special or a Showtime special, and if those two people don't like me, I'm not going to get a special.
All that's changed.
All that's gone. All that's gone.
Craig Bierko and I had this conversation the other day, and he said, if you do another show, you don't have to worry. You don't necessarily have to make some kind of deal with a Spotify, or put the goddamn thing on YouTube and or make a Facebook channel or a page. Because all the delivery systems have changed.
Yeah,
you'll get just as much buzz or just as much attention.
The last late night show spot I was going to do was James Corden, and I was booked, and then they called and said, "We see that one of the jokes that you did on Conan a couple months ago." And I said, "Yeah, I didn't know that every set for different shows had to be completely." New. Of course I wouldn't repeat a joke on the same show.
Sure.
But and then they said no. So could you send us a different set? And I just said, that's okay. It's like, no, that's fine. Nothing's going to happen to me that hasn't already happened.
No, it's
if I'm not on TV for 3 minutes at midnight.
Not going to move the needle significantly.
Not going to move the needle. I don't care.
No, and
they're nice people. They're nice people.
I'm sure.
Nah, it's all right. No.
I'm sure. But all the delivery systems are different now. And it surprised us. I guess from 2014 to 2022, podcasts kind of exploded.
Right.
And when we started, everybody didn't have one. I mean, there was Marin, there was Corolla, there was Kevin Pollak.
Yeah, the Nerdist was big.
You had a show. The Nerdist was around,
Right.
but it wasn't like it was now. Now,
Right.
and that's the bad news, I suppose. The good news is they have a profile.
Sure. Yeah, they're a thing.
You don't
Their
have to be
name-
on. You don't have to be on HBO Max to get an
No.
audience.
Podcasts have been around so long, they are named after a piece of technology that no longer exists.
There you go. There you go.
Nobody has an iPod anymore.
There you go. So, 500, 600 shows into it, well, how many of these have you done?
I don't know.
Takes on a life of its own.
Yeah.
And it started to. I mean, it would have been nice to be working with somebody who promoted it. In retrospect,
Yeah.
or picked up the phone and called called Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, but it was I'm surprised Eddie Murphy never called. I said, "How come I haven't been on this thing?"
Oh well, when Dolomite came out, we made some inquiries, but again, he always had to make the call because it's that level of show business.
Right.
My friend Norman Steinberg, who wrote Blazing Saddles with Mel, said to me, walked in. We had him and Andrew Bergman on together because we did a Blazing Saddles episode. And Norman walked in the room and he looked at me and he said, "Mel will do the show. All he wants is Gilbert to call and invite him." That day never came. We're sitting here.
Yeah.
in September of 2022.
But I have the same thing. I could call him, but if he says no, then it's ruined.
Yeah, but he'd say a very sweet, polite no.
Yeah, but still, then it's like, then I've asked him for something. Now I just call him.
I get it.
Hey, how you doing? I love Max's
it.
book. What's going on? I cherish the.
I get it. I thought about a Father's Day show with him and Max. That would have been tricking him into it in a way. I got Alan Arkin. We couldn't get Alan Arkin, and I thought, well, I bet Alan Arkin and Adam Arkin have never been interviewed together. Let's do a Father's Day show.
Did they do that? And they did that?
Yeah, and it was great. And the pandemic helped
boy,
because
I'm not comfortable
Kaminsky Method
I'm not comfortable doing this. Boy.
He was great. It was the COVID helped because they weren't in production for Kaminsky Method.
Right,
so he was available.
Right.
But Gilbert wasn't making calls. And look, I don't know Malcolm McDowell. I'm not a celebrity. That's a hard call for me to make.
Yeah, I know.
Hi, Malcolm McDowell, Frank Santopadre.
Yeah.
Click.
Yeah.
So
what? He wouldn't hang up.
No. But he went up doing the show.
Yeah. That's what I mean. He's of a lot of people. He is the most antithetical to the people he plays.
Oh yes, he's a lovely guy.
He's so lovely,
so real,
and
lovely,
so nice, and
another guy who does not take himself seriously.
Yeah, just plays pricks, but he couldn't be a nicer person.
The show was booking itself at that point. I'm going to shout out Gilbert's friend and mine, Gino Salamone, who is an entertainment reporter out of Milwaukee. And Gino's been around show business a long time. As a matter of fact, he used to book people like Adam and Alan Hale and Bob Denver and people like that into autograph shows.
Right, okay,
so
got it.
He knew Al Lewis and Butch Patrick. He trafficked in that world.
Right.
And he fell in love with what we were doing, and he used his relationships. He would just make calls. He'd call me and say, this. I heard Dennis DeYoung from Styx in an interview, and he's really funny, and he loves monster movies, and he's right for you guys. And he'd call him. So we started getting angels.
That's crazy.
It was. That's how people found their way onto the show.
Right.
So we'd have a conversation, and I'd say, "What about this guy? I know it seems like a little off the beaten path, but we always had like Stephen Bishop, the singer from the 70s, On and On, and the Animal House music.
Right.
Is a hilarious guy. A lot of these musicians, I think, my friend Henry Gross, who had a hit with Shannon in the 70s.
Wow,
a lot of these guys are frustrated comedians.
Right.
They're big fans of comedy. I was getting fan mail from guys in Blue Oyster Cult and guys from We Might Be Giants. They might be giants.
I can see.
Might be Giants guys. John Flansburgh.
Those guys are hilarious.
That his name?
Who knew BOC?
They wrote to me like, "We love the podcast." So we started finding kind of diamond in the rough guests, like guests that you wouldn't necessarily think of.
Right.
Kirk Hammett from Metallica.
Yeah, Kirk is a
monster kid.
Huge monster kid.
Huge monster kid.
Yeah.
But they fit the show. And then, so Gilbert really wasn't making those calls. Gino was making calls. I was making calls. And then fans of the show were making calls on our behalf.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, like like Craig Bierko said, I was with Beverly D'Angelo last night. Do you want her? Of course. We hit it off with Beverly. Beverly said, let me call Treat Williams. So, that started to book the show.
Right.
Little chain reactions.
That's really funny.
But
it's the perfect distillation of my show business ethos, which is things lead to things.
Yeah, things lead to things.
John Sebastian, like how did that happen? And like I'm a fan of his. I think 6 o'clock is as good a pop song as anything
that's
ever been written.
I agree.
Or Darling Be Home Soon.
Sure. We got him to sing You Didn't Have to Be So Nice at Gilbert's tribute last week. How did John Sebastian happen? This is how the show started to book itself. Fans of the show, super fans of the show, started to emerge. And one of them was a guy named Jim Della Croce, who is a veteran music manager.
Right. Yeah, I actually know the name. Yeah.
He's a wonderful guy. And he would call me and say, what about Michelle Phillips? What about John Sebastian? I'd say, tomorrow, buddy.
Yeah.
Hook me up. And he offered me Steve Cropper, and we were going to interview Todd Rundgren when Gil passed. He was in the on deck circle. Sebastian,
he is a wizard and a true star.
Yes. Sebastian, New York kid.
Yeah, Dad
he
was a huge music.
Yes, Italian guy. Gilbert would make fun of guests being Italian. One of us. Got on the phone with him. He said, hey, Jim would call and say, hey, I got John Sebastian on the phone. I mean, that was one of the great things about the podcast is you're suddenly getting phone calls from these
right.
people. Alan Arkin's calling my mother's, I'm at my mother's house and she's reading my phone. She's going, Alan Arkin's calling. But, Sebastian, we called him. He came, he did the show. He was wonderful. Great stories.
He seems like a lovely guy.
He's a lovely, down-to-earth guy. People forget that songs like Daydream influenced the Beatles, influenced Good Day Sunshine.
Yeah, totally.
He influenced a lot of people. The Spoonful was important. Good
Day Sunshine was just him trying to write Daydream.
So they say.
Yeah.
So they say.
I think he said that.
There's audio somewhere of the Beatles trying to learn Daydream, of the Beatles rehearsing it.
Oh, really?
Now, maybe they were just playing it to warm up.
Oh, funny.
But I'll send it to you. And he delights in the fact that Harrison hits the wrong note at some point, and John corrects him, or maybe the other way around. And we were putting this Gilbert tribute show together. We wanted to do a last show, Dara and I, so we booked City Winery, and most of the guests were our friends and regulars, people in the stock company, Richard Kind,
right,
Yerko, Mario Cantone. And then I reached out to John Davidson to ask him to make a little video for us. And by the way, I will also thank you for making a video for us.
Sure,
you did a wonderful one, which people will see when we put the video up. And we called Sebastian, and Sebastian drove down from Woodstock.
Yeah, he lives in Woodstock still.
He had a friend actually pick him up, a friend in Long Island, pick him up in Woodstock, drive him to Manhattan, drive him back to Woodstock, and then the poor guy had to drive to Long Island. And got home at 5 o'clock in the morning. And then Jason Alexander wrote me and said, I'm in New York that day. Can I come on?
That's great.
And it was turning into a telethon.
Right.
30 guests, and I had to stop at some point, but it filled my heart, Dana. It made me realize how many people loved him, how many people loved the show, and that we could have kept going. We stopped it at 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And Jason was hilarious. We opened with Rupert Holmes singing the Pina Colada song with the audience. And we figured out, my friend John Murray said, would it be funny if the entire audience sang as Gilbert? The choruses.
Right.
So Rupert did his part, and the entire 200 people plus sang, if you like pina colada.
That's amazing.
And it was wonderful. That was a way to open the show. John, then Jason, then Mario did a Gershwin song. I mean, there's a little bit of everything. It was lots of laughs, not a dry eye in the house at the end.
No.
And then here comes a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer to close.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like a Broadway producer. It was great. It was everything we could have asked for, and the perfect way to go out, and the perfect farewell after 600 shows. There'll be no topping it. Did Gilbert even know music?
That's
a really interesting question. He did. Yeah, and how do you mean? You mean, did he have musical chops?
No. did he
Because
have?
Craig described his singing voice as a chimpanzee being thrown out of an airplane.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, no. Did he like own like Beatles albums or Ramones albums? I can't imagine him buying
he had two,
a
he
Ramones
had
album.
two, no, I don't. I can't imagine him buying a record.
Yeah, maybe a soundtrack. Like I can imagine him having like a Guys and Dolls soundtrack or something.
He might have. He had two sisters, and I think his sisters had the record collections, and he listened.
Right.
I don't think he was the kind of guy to walk into Colony Music,
right,
and buy a rare LP.
Right. Like, did he know? Like, he was I'm sure he was familiar with the Lovin' Spoonful.
Very much so. He made
if only
John,
the analogy.
Yeah, that's funny. He made John. This is what would surprise me about him, and why he was always full of surprises. We'd get an artist on, and he'd want to hear some obscure cut.
Right.
Well, he wanted John to do the song "Pow" from What's Up, Tiger Lily, and then he wanted him to do from the Coppola picture, "You're a Big Boy Now."
You're a big boy now, yeah.
You know, so Gilbert we did a lot of episodes called Gilbert Sings, where we just did these Thursday episodes. And it was just, I would find a reason to bring up obscure pop hits or really deep cuts. And he would know them, and he would know the lyrics. He started to sing the Lords of Flatbush theme to Henry Winkler.
Wow.
On the show. And he knew every word. And then he knew every word to the Bang the Drum Slowly song.
Right. Again, soundtracks and yeah, like
yeah, but he also knew top 40.
Okay.
He also, I would say, did you ever hear of a song called "How Do You Do" by Mouth and McNeil? It won the Eurovision Song Contest in the 70s. You'd know it if you heard it.
Right.
It's a one-hit wonder.
Right.
And a novelty record. And he knew every word. He'd scare you with a very strange knowledge of popular music.
God bless him.
Yeah.
God bless him.
I mean, he couldn't sing. He couldn't play an instrument.
Yeah. Did he not play did he play the piano or
no?
Because I can see him like alone, suddenly sitting down to a piano, suddenly
he's Rachmaninoff.
Yeah, exactly. I can almost see that because it's so contrary.
We'd have sing-alongs with musicians, and he was never in the pocket, as they say.
As they say, yes.
So, but to hear him singing "Moni Moni" with Tommy James and "Sugar Sugar" with Ron Dante,
sure,
and MacArthur Park with Jimmy Webb,
or something stupid with me, I believe we did,
or something stupid with you. That's right. Just the best memories of my life.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, in that sense, he was surprisingly musical.
I get that.
Yeah.
That I will accept.
Yeah.
He did as a child of the 70s. He didn't. You know, as a guy that grew up in New York in the 70s, I can't imagine him going to the CBGBs.
No, but you couldn't slip any obscure trivia by him.
No.
You know, like the Dickie Goodman records. Remember Mr. Jaws?
Sure, of course.
Those novelty records?
Yeah.
And he'd know every song.
Right.
You know, and he'd know what song some actor shouldn't have been singing on the Dinah Shore show.
Right.
But did.
Right.
You know, and then he'd know that Irving Villachez cut an album.
Right.
And he'd know songs from I don't know how he knew this stuff.
Yeah. Well, he was just, again, that brain was built for accumulation and recall.
Yeah. And so, you know, those episodes always turned out to be wonderful surprises.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You know, Paul Williams comes on the show, and of course you'd think he's going to sing with Paul.
Right.
Rainy Days and Mondays.
Right.
Or We've Only Just Begun, or Rainbow Connection. And Gilbert's going to an obscure song from the movie Cinderella Liberty. James Caan movie. Know this picture with Marsha Mason?
Yeah, sure. Of course I do. Yeah.
I thought I knew all about Paul Williams, and I did all the research.
Yeah,
I would think this fucking song he pulls out.
I would think that Gilbert would also be a Phantom of the Paradise fan.
A big one.
Yeah.
You know, it's only been 7 months since we lost Gil, and I had to. A lot of my energy went into planning this live show. Right. Which was 2 months, 2.5 months of work.
And also,
you have to mourn it. You know.
Yeah, and the dude.
I mourn the show. I mourn him.
Have you ever? How many times have you gone to call him?
Many.
Me too. With Kevin all the time.
Many.
I go to call Kevin all the time.
Yeah, and I tell you, there were, in that sense, the things that I wanted to talk about and the specifically rude reactions and off color and inappropriate reactions that I was going to get from him. That's not a call I can make to anyone else on the planet.
Yeah. I understand that.
I mean, and he drove me crazy many, many ways, which I say with, I would have said it to him. So I'm not talking behind his back.
No, of course not.
But he made me better. He gave me an opportunity. Dara did, which I'm extremely grateful for. I'm a kid from Long Island who had no tentacles in show business, no connections whatsoever. To find myself in a room with Carl Reiner and Dick Van Dyke and Robert Wagner and Joel Grey and Richard Donner. I don't even know how it happened. So I'm very grateful, and I'm grateful for the fact that he made me better. He made me it made me realize I was funnier than I thought I was.
Yeah,
I'll take another great gift.
Yeah. No, it was, those shows were hilarious. I mean, those shows were so, I mean, God, the second one we did, it felt like we were there for 20 minutes and it was like 3 hours.
You became a favorite guest because you were right in the sweet spot.
Yeah, those were effortless. Those just like, it was so great to do that. Like Robin, God, speaking of dearly departed, Robin could do that too. Like every reference.
Yeah.
He was going to hit every ball. He was going to hit everything back at you. It was just great.
Artistry. I'm convinced we would have had Robin on the show.
Had
not been gone, but
yeah.
And I think to answer your question, I know you're rapping. I think that I have some reservation too. Drew Friedman described our show as, he said, here's what makes it special. You're doing one show. He's doing an entirely different show.
That's well put.
You're doing like this long form, respectful, reverential Cavett interview. And he's doing like some morning zoo, stern,
that's really true.
Kind of like Midnight Blue.
Really,
Al Goldstein.
Really, it's really astute.
So it was the crashing of those two things.
Yeah.
If you didn't like one, you like the other.
Right. No, it was very much like, it was really like a ventriloquist act, only he was a real person. It was like, no, don't say that to these nice people.
Yes, exactly. That's great. It was Otto and George as podcasters.
It was Otto and George.
It'd be like James Lipton interviewing Sidney Lumet, and you and Bobcat suddenly crashing the interview. It just
George.
I would try to keep it on the track, and then he would say to Matthew, I'm respecting Matthew Broderick. I'm trying to show Matthew Broderick, hey, you've never been interviewed like this before, buddy. Yeah. I'm going deep dives. I'm doing those Neil Simon movies. I'm going into Project X.
Right.
We're going to talk about your dad in Dog Day Afternoon.
Uh-huh.
And 12 minutes into the show, Gilbert says, I fucking hated Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Blows the whole thing up.
By the way, me
too.
He's a
bomb thrower. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me three. But I
it's
can tell
a movie
Matthew.
About an asshole.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Gilbert would love you for that. but so I know I don't have that. I know that I don't have that anarchy. And I don't have I could be interviewing, I could be doing a wonderful interview with Stacy Keach or Jamie Lee Curtis or somebody, and it isn't going to suddenly explode.
Right.
With Gilbert's, dirty Tony Curtis stories.
Right.
Or is it true that Mickey Rooney got a blowjob in a phone booth while talking to his wife on the phone? And,
yeah.
Or he'd say to Irwin Winkler, the prestigious producer of Raging Bull and Goodfellas, he just wanted to talk about his bombs. 15 minutes into the show. They shoot horses, don't they? What were you thinking? Nobody could do that.
Are you going to continue to post encore episodes? Or
We do encore episodes on Mondays. We're still getting, over 100,000 downloads.
No, I honestly feel really good seeing it come up in the feed.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you so much for saying that. And then we do Colossal Classics on Thursdays.
Right.
And part of why we do it, it's nice that there's money coming in from the show, which Dara and I certainly enjoy. The show was never a big money maker, so it's nice to it's nice to have a little reward for it. But you're always taking on new fans who never heard those old episodes. So I get a lot of, I didn't know you guys had
Right.
Tim Matheson.
Right.
Or Gavin MacLeod or whomever. So
yeah.
And it's a deep archive. And
yes.
I did get got a call from the Library of Congress back in February, just out of the blue. Somebody reached out to me on Facebook and said, "Hey, this guy's he works at the Library of Congress. He's a friend of mine. Can he call you?" And I said, "Sure." And he called and we had a chat. And he said, "What are you doing with this wonderful archive?" And it never occurred to us that we had this thing of historical value.
The Library of Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal podcast is still issuing encore episodes. If you're not,
it is out there.
A regular listener, you have over 600 hours of just bliss. It's so great, and it's available for download. And we will keep our eye on our friend Frank Santopadre. Thank you for coming on the show.
Aren't you sweet, my friend? Thank you so much for having me. This is a blast, and I could have done it for hours.
OnlyFans. Think about it.
All right, let's get on to Heidi Saha now.
That's what Forrest Ackerman said to Isaac Asimov.
Other podcasts reach for the sky. Dana Gould.
We barely
This has been the Dana Gould Hour, brought to you by the Internet. Music by Andy Paley, with Jake Posner behind the board. Produced by Jeff Fox. Graphic design and web production by Spencer Hunt and Segan Friend. Sound editing and post-production by Jalinda Palmer and Joe Napolitano. Hey, if you like the show, why don't you drop us a line at show@danagould.com. Tom Kenny speaking.
I'm a DJ, I'm a DJ, I'm a person, I'm a person, I'm a singer, I love to sing and DJ. Boom! Peace out. You want me? Peace out. Boom.